All right. I'm fucking live. Nice. 10 seconds in. Already cursing. Which I said I wouldn't do. What's up? 7 people. Alright, you guys know the deal. I'm going to post the link on Twitter. See who's in the chat. And then we'll get this going. How you guys doing? I'm still at the level of going to YouTube and manually getting the stream. That's just how it is. That's just how it's gonna be. 4 people. 3 people left. They came in at the bell and they were like, I don't know. Not today. Alright. Got a new pic that I'm posting with the link. Who's here? Anyone here yet? A few people. What's up? We're starting at 7. Yo! You got a Hiroshi game print? That's fucking awesome, man. Nice. Wow, only a week. Only a week. He did it. What's up, everybody? How's it going? You know the deal. We'll chill for a second, then we're going to start at 7. I'm posting the link on YouTube right now. I never know what to say when I post a link on YouTube. I never know how much I should like hype it up. I never want to be like, oh my god, it's the best. I mean, it is obviously, but you don't want to say that. Okay. Bam. Posted. I'm gonna make sure the link shows up. One time I posted the link with an image on Twitter and the link just like didn't show up, so I'm taking out my phone right now. What's poppin'? Nothing, man. I'm good. I'm just doing my thing. Tuesday, I basically take the whole day and do like clerical stuff in the studio and just like answer emails and get projects in order and stuff. So yeah, it was chill. I spent most of the day in the trunk of my truck answering emails. So it's pretty chill. I've just been like flipping open the back of the trunk and like sitting back there on this like rolled up sleeping bag. Oh, thanks, man. Thank you, Arando username thing. A random username thing. Arando. Cool. Sumo wrestling. That is not my area of expertise. I don't know. Do I? Oh, yeah, I'm going to like fix the camera and prep the camera and stuff right now. So same like announcement I do every time. If you have like an aversion to shaky camera stuff, just like look away for a second. But I'm going to keep the chat open. That's an interesting question. Do I know about any weird like esoteric sumo stuff from Japan? I don't know. I'm sure it dovetails with like Shintoism in some way, right? Like it literally has to, like every single aspect of Japanese culture. But not off the top of my head, no. Japanese religion stuff is pretty cool. I mean, you can definitely like dive in pretty deep there. Configure video. The cool thing about Japanese religion stuff is that it's like very syncretic. As in like mixing things together. Like actually, even though Buddhism is from India, there was no real official attempt to separate Buddhism from indigenous Japanese stuff until like, I think like the 1800s at least or something. So when you dig in there, it's pretty cool because like, you know, I mean, maybe you already know this, but like Japanese life, the society, the government, religions that are there, religions coming in, it all like perfectly fuses together. So I have to imagine there's some like sacred significance for sumo stuff, but I don't really know off the top of my head. Okay, I'm fixing the focus. I want to see if you can read this little tube of paint. It's like the perfect metric. There we go. You actually can read it. Spectrum red. Perfect. All right. All right, we got a minute. I'm going to give people a minute to like come in. I'm just going to organize, throw on my gloves, organize the paint situation. And we can get this going. Wow, is there really one glove here? No, there's 2. Perfect. How you guys doing? I feel like we're deep in quarantine. I feel like, you know, the last 2 weeks, I was talking about being over quarantine. But now I feel like I've passed into a new stage where, in my mind, I'm not leaving quarantine for, like, the rest of the year. I mean, like, do you guys really think you guys are going out like the rest of the year? Right? I feel like it's just not going to happen. So that's where I'm at. I'm pretty cool with it though. I haven't interacted with like anyone for a really long time. The tools, best part of the week. Peter M in the chat. What's up? I have like a cast of characters now in the chat. People I remember. The thing is though, hey, if you hang out in the chat, I mean, I'm down. I love it. I don't always know who you are on Twitter because you have a different name. So it's funny because like sometimes like I'll be like, oh, it's that guy on YouTube, but then on Twitter that person will message me and I'll be like, oh my god, that was you the whole time. I had no idea. All right, I'm just gonna organize the paint situation real quick. Nipples yellow. You did a painting experiment and it turned out terrible. Yeah, that happens, man. That's okay. It's part of why I do this stuff live and don't really plan it out. Like, you know, I kind of want people to see the process and like things don't always have to turn out so well. I've been reading some interesting visual stuff. I've been going. I feel like the next like big chapter I'm gonna open. You know, I'm always well on certain platforms. I'm always talking about keeping it fresh, like opening up new avenues and. The analogy I often use is it's like, you know, like you're in a cavern and you're like digging like deeper and deeper and deeper. And then it kind of feels like you get to the end of this cavern and you're like, all right, cool, I got to turn back. I got to the end of it. But then you punch through this wall and it just keeps going. And there's even more cavern with like gems and there's more stuff behind it. Like you punch into like a huge room. And I feel like I did that recently because I've been thinking about Old Testament symbolism and how it syncs up with the New Testament. And like prophets from the Old Testament and stuff like that. And I was just digging around and I was like, wow. I mean, I know that stuff is cool, obviously, but I was like, man, there's a lot of underutilized capital in this folder. So that's what I've been digging into. I've been reading a book about time and like sacred time intersecting with like secular time and like conceptions of time and like time periods. So it also kind of perfectly fits with the whole, you know, Old Testament, New Testament tying together, like sacred time as like God, like intersecting with human, like secular time. We'll probably talk about that a little bit. Time is it 7:02? We'll give the latecomers one more minute. We'll give them one more minute. I'm going to tear off the painting we did last week. I got a bunch of paper, but we're still going to use this. I'm really feeling this like rectangular hot press. Oh, I fucking ripped it. Yeah, it's fine. I just ripped the bottom. It's not a big deal. So I'm going to tear this off. That's what happens when you get sloppy in the art department. It's okay though. All right. Boom. All right, what time is it? 7:03, 7:04. I'm going to pull the trigger. What's up, Montana area code? It's a really good username. I like that. It's really funny. Got the lights. I'm going to mess with the exposure. I think we're good. I got to get a new lamp. My lamp is like incredibly trashed over here. I'm going to prop that up on something when I throw the intro on. My wife threw something at my desk and knocked over my lamp. Shouting her out. I had that thing for like 10 years, like literally, and then she broke it. But it's okay. It's not a big deal. I'm not like secretly harboring resentment. No, I'm really not. It's totally awesome. Is the time book Theo-Political Imagination? No, that sounds awesome though, dude. We circle gang today. We're going back to the square setup. Yo, I was thinking about that. I'm not really sure, man. I'm really feeling the circle because I feel like it is a really dynamic shape to work in as opposed to the square, which is like very stable, I guess you could say. I'm not really sure though. I mean, I might do the circle and like branch out of it a little bit this time. I'm not really sure, honestly. All right. It's 7:04. You guys know the catchphrase. Not making the on-time people wait for late people. Oh, yo, I actually reformatted my computer, and I hope that when I click the intro, it actually works. Let's see if it's going to work. after the black screen. Coming in. How's it going, everybody? How is it going? I'm just setting up the last things here. I'm always ready on Tuesday. It's like 5 o'clock. It's like 4 o'clock. And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to be so ready. I'm going to be on time. And then all of a sudden, it's like 6:50 and I'm still like getting it together. How's it going? It is April. The end of April. We are firmly in spring now. Life bursting forth. But we're all stuck inside. There's some kind of symbolism there. Maybe we'll unpack that a little bit later. How you guys doing though? I think we're just gonna jump right in this week. I was talking about it a little bit before we kicked the intro on. I guess I always talk a little bit about what I'm like been thinking about and stuff like that, but maybe we'll just jump right in this week. I'm getting the compass going. I'm getting the tools going. How are you guys doing now? How are you dealing with presumably not seeing anyone but the people you live with for the last like 4 weeks, 6 weeks? How far are we in now? I'm doing pretty good with it, actually. Honestly, I kind of like it, to be completely honest with you. Ooh, first time you saw the intro. Nice. I'm just configuring stuff. You know what I really have to do? This is a real painting tip. Is that what I've been doing is I have the palette here and I have the drawing situation here. So that means that while I'm working, my hand gets in the paint and then I transfer the paint over to the paper unintentionally. That's kind of whack, so we are going to change that right now. And let's see, is it too far over? I can move the camera. But I like having the light. Let's just stick with the setup one more time this time. It's all good. Am I INFJ? I don't know. I'm the one that's the debater. I got the debater, which means that the test is probably at least like somewhat legitimate. I don't know which one that is though. For another week or so, yeah, I'm pretty sure the quarantine's going to be going on for another in my opinion, it's going to be going on for a long time. But we'll see how it goes. All right. So someone asked, am I doing circle, square style? I feel like, honestly, I kind of just want to keep rolling with the circle. I feel like at some point, I'm going to be trying to capture the lightning in the bottle too much and we'll have to move on. That's like a big thing with me. I really don't like to feel like I'm trying to capture the magic and do the same thing over and over and over. But I don't know. I'm just vibing so hard on the circle. I feel like one more time, we could definitely get it going. Yeah, let's do it. All right, so what I was thinking about this week, some weeks I'm just I've kind of been thinking about art and working a lot, but this week what I was thinking about was, I mentioned it a little bit in the intro, but I've been thinking a lot about Old Testament Bible symbolism, and it's pretty interesting for me because a huge part of my vibe is, I'm not so arrogant to be like, I'm the one who's going to revive Western mystical art. That's really not my move, but I do feel like I'm a pawn on that chessboard, so I do think of myself as a cog in the machine in that way. So I'm always kind of looking for new things to tap into, new kind of fuel, you could say. It's a good way to put it, new fuel to put in the... I just thought of something. I'm not going to outline this in black. I'm going to outline it in a different color this time. Why not? Why not just change it up a little bit? I have this orange pen right here. Do I have red? No, let's go with orange. Let's change it up. I want to keep mixing it up. Can't do the same thing 2 weeks in a row. So yeah, I'm always thinking about really a good way to put it is new fuel to put in the fire, new fuel to put in the boat. I was talking with someone in my DMs and, it's kind of like Christianity in general. I don't mean this in a bad way. Well, it's kind of like a negative situation, but it's not anyone's fault in particular, but it's kind of been, at least in America, I don't know, I actually really don't know what it's like in European countries, but there's a very particular aesthetic associated with it, I guess you could say. There's certain cliches, to put it that way, certain cliche images you could say, and I'm always trying to think of new ways to I don't know, I don't want to say spice it up, spice up Christianity, that's really not what I'm getting at, but spice up just the visual situation, you know what I mean? If you went on Etsy and looked up those kind of cheesy Bible t-shirts, they have certain images that people use every time. There's certain images that people associate with can I get this glue off over here? Let's see. I'm just going to peel it back. Certain images, certain themes people associate with kind of the standard vibe for them that maybe is not that exciting with like certain aspects of it. I'm sure you know what I'm getting at. I'm trying not to sound offensive, but I'm sure you know what I'm getting at. So I'm always thinking about other things like that, and I feel like I just poked into this huge folder of Old Testament symbolism, and it was so tight. I was looking at the old, the minor prophets that are in the back of the Old Testament, and I've always been really into that. Okay, I'm trying to figure out how I want to start this, how I want to get it going. I'm just going to lay down some color, and let's just get it going. I'm breaking out these warm colors over here. I've been really feeling the warm color situation. I feel like I've been trying to push the blues and greens because it's spring and I'm always trying to draw on the seasonal aspect. But if it's not happening, it's not happening. Let's just lean into what is happening. So I'm breaking out the reds over here. I'm going to break out this brush right over here. And let's just kind of get it going. I mean, if it turns out whack, we can do another one. We can move on from it. But let's just kind of dive right in. Also going to get some mark making tools out. I actually, honestly, when I'm sketching and stuff, I just use like straight up markers like this. It's a really good way to like lay down color. I don't know if that's like unexpected or not, but I actually have this huge box. I got one of those boxes where it's like 200 different like Crayola markers, honestly. Just because if you're sketching or like making notes about something, it's really easy to look over and grab like a particular color. Obviously, I wouldn't use it if I was doing like an official, legit, fine art piece for someone or for myself. I'm going to move the camera real quick, so basically deal with it for a second. I just want to get the circle like right in there. There's a little spring in the camera. Boom. That's perfect, actually. Still focused? Yeah, we are. Cool. All right. Yeah, everyone's telling me about this show, Midnight Gospel. I guess I'll check it out. I don't know. I'm very skeptical of like Hollywood stuff, but like 4 or 5 different people have all DM'd me telling me to watch it, so maybe I'll check it out. Anyway, we'll talk for a second before I just get this going. Want to make sure I say what I have to say, and then we can launch in. So yeah, Old Testament stuff, minor prophets. So in the back of the Old Testament, there's the 12 minor prophets, and I've always been really, really into them for whatever reason. I'm sure there's a few reasons for it. Maybe because honestly, I'm sure a factor is that the books are really short. So you can sit down and easily read one of the minor prophet books. Some of them are like 10 pages. So I'm sure it was a factor, especially when I was like younger and I didn't really honestly care to read the Bible, unfortunately, at that time, that I was like, oh, it's this weird stuff in the back. Also, they're kind of in the back of the book, so they have a little bit of like a forgotten flavor to them. Some of them are not very well known. There's like Jonah that everyone knows, but other than that, they're really not very well known at all. So it has a little bit of like an esoteric feel to it, I guess. Hold on, I'm drinking water. But also, a lot of it is about these prophets like condemning like different empires or talking about empires falling or how people are going to be punished and things like that. And it's all mixed in with this very like visionary imagery. Some of it is straight up visions. Some of it is like poetry or songs and things like that. But a lot of it is these really cool visions and like visionary images and things like that. And I feel like that's a really ripe place for me to be exploring in a certain sense. Also, the way the Old Testament symbols sync up with the New Testament symbols. I feel like I have a very firm grasp on, I guess what you could say is like a Jungian sense of symbols in general, or their general like transcultural context. Like a good example is like a cloud. Like, what's a cloud mean? Like, we talked about this last week, actually. Like, in some cultures where they have enough rain, a cloud means you're sad, like in England. But in some cultures where there's not enough rain, a cloud is like this life-giving force. Cloud's kind of like fog, so it has, the aspects of that where it is, cloudy vision, not being able to see clearly. The symbolism of a fog is somehow tied to a cloud if you use it in a certain way. But also then there's more like an explicit like Christian context of it where, like when Jesus ascends into the heavens, there are these clouds, or like something like an earthquake, when there's the crucifixion, there's X, Y, and Z happening. So I feel like I have like the 100% of the Jungian and transcultural context for the symbols, and I really want to just grab the knob and turn up the, frankly, like hardcore biblical symbolism aspect to my work. So I wrote a bunch of books about biblical symbolism. I have a bunch of that stuff here. I've been kind of reading and studying like more deeply. For example, a lot of my sketchbooks look like this. I'm just going to grab one off the floor right now. Red, that's the color. A lot of them are just basically full of notes like this, where just like while I'm reading, I'll just be kind of hardcore, like going through and like explicating stuff and like laying things out. So I've been doing that a lot more, structuring my time differently, but I'm not going to go into that right now because it's not that interesting. But I have been thinking about that a lot, so I don't know, I guess that's kind of the theme and like what's on my mind as we go into this right now. I feel like the Old Testament symbolism has a kind of, there's really not a good word for it. It almost has a kind of, my cousin uses this word, kind of like a freaky deaky flavor, kind of like a hoodoo-y ancient religion flavor. I mean that in like the best way possible, but it has this kind of freaky element to it, doesn't it? I mean, like, everyone knows the most popular one is probably the Ezekiel's vision. And when you dive into it, you know, there's like the wheel, the angels covered in eyes, but they're actually made of this like blue stone called beryl, and they're on fire, and the seraphims, and it has just this kind of like freaky element to it. Numinous is a really good word. I love the word numinous, actually. Numinous is when something is like kind of beautiful, but also terrifying. If anyone has followed my advice, or you could know about him because he's a very popular poet, Rilke is one of my favorite poets ever. He talks about the angels being like beautiful and terrifying. And I feel like that's kind of the hallmark of the Old Testament symbolism that I really want to tap into for a variety of reasons. For example, I was reading the book of Zechariah, and he has like these 9 visions like back to back, and they're really cool. And in one of them, this is like a minor detail in there, but in one of them, there's a stone. So there's the high priest of Israel at that time. Like basically, I might mess this up a little bit. You know, I'm not like a hardcore theologian. I'm just like a painter. But it's something like at that time, Israel, the group of people, had been designated as like outcast or exiled for a period of like 70 years, and that time was like about to expire, so it was like up in the air, and people were like, oh, is it gonna be done, like are we gonna move on? And he has these visions all kind of about that. And in one of them, the current high priest, I think his name's Joshua. I'm kind of going a little bit out of my depth right now. I didn't really plan on talking about this, but whatever. This high priest, pretty sure his name's Joshua, is in front of this angel, and he's getting these new clothes and stuff. And just as like a minor detail in the vision, on the ground is this rock, and the rock is covered with these 7 eyes, and the eyes are like etched into this rock on the ground in front of this angel and Satan and this high priest getting these new clothes. And I was like, man, that's awesome. Like a rock covered with 7 eyes, just like these little details like strewn in. So I don't know, it's kind of where my head's at right now. It's kind of what I was thinking of. Probably try and get a little bit of that flavor going on here today. And yeah, it's basically where my head's at right now. What I'm thinking art-wise, what I'm thinking image-wise, is last week I went in really hard with the dark colors right off the bat. I just came in hard with the dark colors, and it made kind of a weird situation where it wasn't as easy to really integrate the intentional elements, like what I was actually like, you know, painting in carefully, what I was painting in intentionally. It made it hard to integrate that with the accidental, more like chaotic elements, because the background was so dark I couldn't really like weave in and out of it. So I want to make sure I don't do that this time. I want to go in like a little bit lighter and kind of like craft it up and like build it together, which means I kind of have to plan it out a little bit, but you know, we're just going to go for it. So I'm going to put a little bit of a wash of color coming up this way. I like using the circle, like I said before, because it's a really dynamic shape. Unlike the square, a square is like hallmark is its stability. All the sides are the same. Even in, you know, if you build a building, even in geometry, a square is like very stable. So I want to try and use the kind of like dynamism of the circle. So I'm going to have some color coming up here. I have a feeling I'm going to get some palm trees in. Palm trees are very like Old Testament. They have like a dual nature where they're simultaneously Miami and Old Testament. We're going to see if we can harness just the Old Testament flavor, not the Miami flavor, but we're going to see how that goes. It's like a live cooking show. Not sure how it's going to turn out. I mean, they actually are sure how it's going to turn out, and you don't know if it's bad because you're not eating the food. But let's just go for it. I'm torn between throwing down the Venetian red or the cadmium orange. The Venetian red is like Pompeii wall color. It's like really rich, like dirt color. Cadmium orange is orange. I don't want to go too dark, so we're going to start with the orange. We're going to start that way. Cool. And yeah, it's interesting because the other thing I've been thinking about kind of perfectly all dovetails together. I always feel very like, I wouldn't take it so far to be like, there's some entity guiding me in my studies, but I do always feel like my studies and like these different topics that I poke into do kind of dovetail in this really nice way. I'm gonna get a paper towel ready for this actually. And do kind of go together. Like, you know, I'll get a few topics going and then start to see like the connections between them. And I mentioned it before, but the other thing I've been thinking about was I got this book. It's on my floor. What's it called? It's called, I didn't finish it yet, so it's not a book recommendation. I'm just telling you guys that I'm reading it. It's called A Time for Every Purpose Under Heaven, an exploration of sacred history. It's by a guy named James Heiser. Pretty sure he's a Lutheran priest. He was on Coast to Coast also. I feel like that gives you a very good idea of what his vibe is. And I just picked it up randomly. I was looking for like new stuff to read. And it's really interesting. It got me thinking a lot about history and time and mythology and how we think of time and things like that. I feel like that kind of dovetails with Old Testament, syncing up with the New Testament. So maybe we'll talk about that a little bit also. But for now, I want to get some color going. We've been looking at the white page for too long. There we go. I just want to get the lamp like really shining on here. It's almost like you can never have enough light. But it's fine. Let's see. Should we turn the exposure up? Real quick, I'm going to see if I should turn the exposure up. Properties. Configure video. This is the amateur flavor you guys want. You guys want the curated, carefully planned stuff. You got to go to Uniqlo's Instagram for that. This is not the place. It's kind of blown out. The auto exposure. That's better. Yeah. I don't know. I feel like it could be a little brighter. Can I do like 0.5s? Let's see if I can do 6.5. Can you do that? Let's see. Really quick. Oh, I can't customizably put it in. Really? I can't just type 6 in there? That sucks. Let's see. Kind of blown out, but maybe if I move the lamp. Ooh, there we go. All right, let's roll with that for a minute. That looks pretty dope to me. Move it back so I can see the chat. Perfect. Cool. And yeah, if you want me to see something you say in the chat, tag me like Guthlick, Ari, Eugenia did. Yeah. All right, cool. So let's see. I'm just going to get this going. I'm first going to throw down. So I have this huge brush. I love this thing. This is like the bazooka over here. I'm just going to make sure there's no color on it, which there's not. I'm going to lay down the water first. There's a little bit of gray in it, but actually it'll be cool. So I'm going to lay down the water first. I feel like that's also what I didn't do last time is set the stage for something like that. Perfect. Perfect. Just kind of really loosely get the color in. Get it going up here. Nice. Looks dope already. With the kind of fattest, like thickest pigment lay down over here at the bottom. Cool. And I'm actually wondering, maybe while it's so wet, I can come in with the Venetian red and put in those palm trees that I mentioned. Let's see. Let's see how that goes. I want to kind of like dial up the chaotic element. If you've been watching since the beginning, at the beginning it was like very planned. You know, remember if you watched the first episode, I spent like an hour like drawing out this like geometric diagram, and then it was only at the end that I finally kicked into like hardcore mode and started like really making like big moves. And then we've kind of like progressively gotten more and more and more embracing the chaos. So just want to see how much we can push that before it starts to be like too much. So let's see, I'm just going to throw down. It's not really as dark as I would want it, but it's okay. I was actually just complaining before that it was too dark, so. And let's see, I'm just going to one more time maybe make it a little thicker, a little more powerful. And we'll get some like really dark pigment in here at the bottom. It'll bleed out while I'm painting. Maybe I should get a little bit more down here, just so it's not all clustered together. Cool. Perfect. All right, and let's see. It's a little light, but like I just said, I was complaining that it wasn't light enough last time, so maybe I don't know what I want. And I'm going to throw down palm tree situation. One of my favorite symbols. I'll probably never fully get away from it. Talked about this before, but often symbolic of paradise. Palm leaves, Palm Sunday. So many palms. All right, and I got the leaves kind of poking into the wetness, so we'll see how that goes. Get a big one up here. Perfect. Yeah, and the orange frame looks dope. I think the exposure might be too much. Maybe I'll come back and tone it down, but let's see. Ooh, that's interesting. I think that's better. People were telling me there's too much glare last time. I actually kind of agree with you, so let's see if we can find the perfect balance of like glare versus darkness. All right, perfect. And I love this like deep red color. It's really tight. Maybe we'll get one more. Maybe it's too much, but who cares? Yeah, it looks dope. That looks dope. All right. And I kind of do want to get one of those wheel angels in since I was talking about it. What's interesting is if you actually read Ezekiel, it describes him as being made of beryl. That's kind of ambiguous because beryl is a stone that can be a few different colors. In fact, in Tibetan Buddhism, there's a series of books that I'm familiar with. I own one of them illustrated back at my other house. Not rich, but my other house. I mean my parents' house where I don't live anymore. One's called the white beryl, one's called the yellow beryl, one's called the blue beryl. So if you're reading a text like Ezekiel and it says the angels are made of beryl, it's kind of ambiguous. What does that really mean? But I kind of do want to get one of those in. Also, it's a circle, so I think that would look really dope. I'm going to paint it up here in the top, one of those like wheel angels. I think that would be sick. As I'm painting in the wheel angel, so here's an interesting, I don't have my note cards over here. One second, I'm just going to grab a piece of paper. 1 second. So as I'm painting in this angel, I have a few kind of interesting choices that I could make. I'm just going to move this for 1 sec. So I call this like painting sketching. You know, I'm not married to making something that's going to be like totally perfect, but obviously I want it to look dope. So as I put in something like a geometric form, as I start drawing like the first thing, it's kind of a big decision how I want to be interacting with the picture plane. That's a fancy way of saying like the two-dimensional surface that I'm rendering the image on, how I want to interact with it. This is kind of a perfect example, so I'm going to illustrate it here with a Sharpie real quick. So the wheel angels, the OPHANIM, hey, that's what the show is called. Should paint one every week. Which, by the way, is why the show is called that. Anyway, so they're described as two interlocking wheels, actually. There's a wheel on the outside and there's a wheel on the inside. So they're kind of like set into each other. So what that means is that when I'm painting it, well, I could paint it how it would really be. Let's say you really saw two interlocking wheels on a table, for example. It would be something like this. It's probably not going to be perfect, but it's okay. Oh, dude, the Sharpie's dry. Wow, truly amateur hour right now. Oh, I played myself so bad. It's okay. That's why I have like a million of these. So it could be. Oh, this purple is so light. Let's try one more thing. I have a dry erase marker. Come on, don't fail me, dry erase marker. Come through right now. Oh, perfect. Never let me down. So if you saw two interlocking wheels on a table, it would be something like this. I'm just going to kind of like simplify the perspective a little bit. But it would be something like, let's say, you know, oh, we need a little bit of a ring in here. Kind of exaggerated a little bit for the purpose of demonstration, but it's okay. Let's get a little shading. So you have one wheel, like you're looking at it in 3D space. You can see the front side, you can see the back side, you know. So if we drew the two interlocking wheels as they would actually be, let's say it would end up being something like this. Kind of getting used to drawing at a really steep angle so you guys can see it as I'm doing it. And then the other inside wheel might be something like that. You know, it would be coming down a little bit. And then this would be coming out over here. It's enough to illustrate my point. It's not a very good drawing, but it's enough to illustrate my point. So you have these two like interlocking rings, let's say, and they're covered in eyes, so there'd be eyes on the outside. I would have done it like this, actually. It's like a little bit of a less steep angle, but it doesn't really matter. So you can draw it like this, where it's actually like in three-dimensional space. Or the thing is, I can kind of go full medieval and draw it as though it's flat. And then you get into a really interesting situation, because then rendering something like two interlocking wheels in a completely flat space, it's kind of up to you how you would do that. Sorry, I have coronavirus, just kidding. So if I was doing it in a more like completely three-dimensional space, a two-dimensional space, you know, maybe it's just a straight up ring. Maybe that's like what the wheel looks like if you're operating on like a totally flat plane. And then on the inside, you could do a few things. I mean, I've even seen like, you know, let's say the wheel is on the inside, but you're rendering it flatly. Then you just get the eyes like that, get the wings going on. Or we could do something like get the circle on the outside. And we could have the outside ring flat like that, and then actually this would be dope. And then we could show the three-dimensional ring on the inside. That actually is pretty hot. You get the eyes coming around here. It's on fire probably. I think we'll go with this one. So yeah, it's just interesting because the reason I like explicated that is because as I'm going along, I'm kind of making these decisions. It's like here's kind of a better example, and then we'll kind of get off this page. But it's interesting if you draw or get into even just doodling and stuff like that. Because as I'm doing this, let's say I'm going to draw a house, okay? If I am like, okay, I'm going to draw a house. I'm going to just exaggerate a little bit. If I throw the house down in like full 3D, where it's like a three-dimensional house, and then let's say you can see the inside of this door over here and the windows. You can see the inside ridge of the windows. And then maybe there's like a dome. Maybe it's kind of like a temple actually, and everything's like really 3D. Then you're setting yourself up for having a certain type of visual space. Where now if there's a guy in the front and a guy way in the back, he's going to be smaller because you're in like 3D space world. You're in the world of how things like actually look in real life. And if there's another house over here, you kind of have to put that one in perspective. It's probably smaller, you know, whatever. Or if when you draw the first house, you just say, okay, you know what? It's like 400 AD in my visual brain, and it's just going to be a straight up flat house. It's like a pictorial representation of like what your mind thinks of when it thinks of like the ideal house. Then you're operating in a totally different visual space. And maybe you have a guy, maybe he's like kind of big. Maybe it doesn't really make sense with how big the house is. And then over here, you have another one, maybe it's kind of the same size. You get kind of ambiguous now. Are you like in bird's eye view looking down? Are you like reading a map? So you can see that's actually a good way to think of it. It's kind of a different way of viewing it. Like this would be more like a map or more like informational. And this would be more like I'm mimicking a camera. I'm thinking of myself as like a camera and how like the actual real eye sees things. And when you look at art from different cultures, you can totally break it down in terms of these two things. Like you're never going to get this in certain places. But then like let's say in Europe, beyond a certain time, you only get this. Then they never really go back to this. Certain places, they're always over here. You can look at stuff from like 400 AD. It's down here. Medieval, Renaissance. You probably get what I'm getting at. So that's just something interesting that I have to think about when I start putting in figures and forms and stuff like that. And we are going to throw down that wheel angel. Kind of a long walk, but I think it was worth it. Perhaps the wheels are concentric. Yeah, they could be. Yeah, they could be. Am I sick of the lockdown yet, or have I accepted the lifestyle? I've accepted it, man. I'm ready. I'm ready for like a year of lockdown. I'm ready to not leave my house for like the next year. Is that just cope, or am I actually ready for it? Nobody knows, dude. I'm actually ready for it. I'm actually kind of down. But I don't think anything's going to really happen for a while. Put it that way. So I'm going to paint this OPHANIM in red. Just got to get the red down. I can't get away from it. Can't get away from the red. And I'm going to pull this down a little bit. Perfect. Let's see. Soon, so we'll get going a little bit, but then I'm going to change up the lighting situation, and we're going to see like if it's better or worse. So just kind of make note of what you think about the lighting if you're watching this. The other thing I'm thinking is if I want the wings to come out of the circle. It's kind of a big call, but yeah, let's just do it. All right, so I'm going to throw this down right now. I want to make it big enough so I can put the eyes in. Oh, God, I love painting this red color, putting this pigment down. It's so nice. If you're painting also, you probably, or if you're drawing sometimes, you probably get worried about like making shapes perfect. You really don't have to. You can always compensate for it and always make it look intentional. And even if it doesn't, it's fine. It's not a big deal. One trick for when you're making circles is, it's pretty good. Thought I was going to jinx myself, but I'm pretty okay with that. Is if you think of the points, if you think of the top, right, middle, and bottom as you're doing it, and them all being equidistant from the center, you're usually not gonna mess it up too badly. Watch, I'm gonna jinx myself though. I didn't really leave enough room to really get the eyes in there, but it's okay. We'll make it work. Cool. I'm also feeling with this red color, we could go like fully Old Testament and get the like lamb's blood like around a doorway. That would be pretty awesome. We're probably gonna do that. Let's come down over here. Kind of maybe I'll put like a door just like straight up in the center and get the red blood on the outside. That sounds pretty dope. And then inside we're gonna go with kind of half flat, half not, like we just talked about. So I'm gonna put this oval in here. Maybe it's like 900 AD. So people can kind of make things in perspective, but it's still not like full on like realistic painting mode. Boom. And I want to get the bottom ridge in here, even though you probably wouldn't really be able to see it. I just want to get that fully like 3D effect. There we go. That's perfect. Okay, now I'm going to put in the eyes. I think I'm going to paint the eyes in. Oh, actually, I want to make sure the picture feels kind of like integrated. So I'm going to put the eye outline in this brown. And then I think I'll put the eyes in blue. I like using the blue eyes because I think it kind of conveys like a luminous like clarity. Blue, especially the cobalt blue paint that I'm going to use, it kind of has the connotation of like a gem or like a precious gem to me. So that's how we're going to do it. Will the brown look good with the blue? Yeah, it'll be fine. We're kind of pushing the desert vibe anyway, so let's keep it going. I had a friend and we used to like kind of gauge people. We used to hang out with a lot of people that were very like spiritually inclined, let's say. I could change brushes to a smaller one, but we're going for it. Let's not do that. And we used to kind of categorize people by whether they were desert religion, forest religion, or city religion people, kind of breaking it down by those like 3 subgroups. And I still do that sometimes. Like sometimes I'll be reading a book and I'm like, wow, this is so desert religion vibe. Or I'll be like, wow, this person's so like forest religion. Even on Twitter, you can sometimes kind of tell. All right, so I'm going to get the eyes going. Obviously, I love when things are covered with eyes. You know that I'm down. Especially wings, that's a really clutch move. Wings are covered with eyes. If anyone's not familiar, everyone knows the Italian Renaissance, but the Northern Renaissance artists like Jan van Eyck and people like that, they have some of the best angel wings. I'm pretty sure it's Jan van Eyck. His Annunciation is insane. If you're on a computer and want to pull up another window, you can if you want, or you can look it up later and make a note of it. But Jan van Eyck, pretty sure it's Jan van Eyck's Annunciation, where the angel's appearing to Mary. He paints in these like Technicolor wings, and they're covered with eyes, and it's really awesome because it's like 1400s Technicolor, so he doesn't have every color like we do here, but that's really great. The Northern Renaissance is really awesome. It's almost better than like the regular Renaissance, honestly. Perfect. That looks good. And I'll put the eyes on the middle one too. I'm going to put the eyes on the middle one in orange, just to like differentiate a little bit. Get that lapis blue. Yeah, it's coming down the pipeline. All right. Okay, we got big questions in the chat. If you've been watching the show, you know the deal. I'm still mastering. It's like there's three things going on. I'm not complaining because I love it. It's my job as the host. It's like there's three things going on. It's like people asking me stuff in the chat, talking about the painting, and then talking about just general interesting stuff. It's kind of like it's all going on at once. So I'm still mastering balancing all those things. In the beginning, I paused in the middle and took an intermission and took questions, but I don't know. It's not really the move, like just to pause for like 15 minutes and like then that's the only time I'm like interacting with you guys. It's kind of lame. At the same time, if I just straight up look at the chat the whole time, I like very derail myself, so see how it goes. But I am noticing certain questions and I will come back to them. All right, that looks sick. That looks sick already. Okay, so now for the wings. Got a little bit of a question going on. How do I want to do the wings? You know, I'm going to break out that Sharpie. That was kind of cool. Part of the reason why I like doing this whole thing is that I like illustrating. I drew on the paper. All right, I'm going to get a bunch of paper. Hold on one second. Because I like illustrating what's going on in my mind so you can see like the decision-making process as it's happening. So for the wings right now, got a few options. Let's see, how's dark red? That's pretty good, actually. Oh, it's like the exact Venetian red color. Perfect. Okay, wing situation. I got a few options. What I've been feeling recently is these wings that come kind of like down a little bit. That's too much of a bend. But these wings that kind of like come down. I don't know why. I've just been kind of like feeling that recently. And they come down over here. Actually, in Zechariah, in the book of Zechariah I was just talking about, there's women with stork wings. Thought that was pretty cool. Just that it specified like specifically stork wings. And I'm not really feeling this one right now. We could do that. That could actually be dope. One other option is just to go straight graphic like I was talking about before, and you can just get the like full on, not really about the feathers, I'm just talking about the arrangement of the wings. Oh shit, I did it backwards. Yeah, it's fine. Just like full on, just like graphic wings like this. You got to be careful you don't use four of them though, because then it's like a swastika basically. Just saying. Or I really do like the classical seraphim arrangement where the 6 wings make a full ring around the item. I have a shirt and like a design where it's the Sacred Heart and then it's surrounded by these 6 cardinal wings that uses this one. But you get one coming up over this way. You get a second one filling out the top that's like kind of circled behind it. You get one coming down. You get one coming down. And then you get 2 down at the bottom doing the same thing. This is like the classical seraphim arrangement. And then sometimes if you get the tetramorphs is like a rarely used term where then in the center the seraphim has 4 heads, 4 animals, tetramorph, right? That's why it's called that. Then in the middle you can get the 4 animal heads. You get like a bull and an eagle and a lion and a human head in the middle. That's pretty cool. We're not doing that right now. I don't know. I feel like we could go this way, but the thing is I already have the palm tree there. They could kind of like be overlapping a little bit. We'll kind of do this one, but they'll come out a little bit more. That's what we're going to do right now. Or do I want them coming out of the circle? Nah, I don't. Let's not do that. So I'm going to throw these down in Venetian red. All right. Cool. Someone said, I've been getting a lot of messages like this. What did they say? I'll scroll back up and just read it really quick. It's kind of going to derail my narrative, but I'm cool with it. Hey, Owen Cyclops. Recently heard my sister say that she's trying to get into witchcraft. I understand most of the stuff she reads online isn't real, but how would you suggest dissuading her? Yeah, man. That's a really tough one, honestly. Well, it's kind of hard because with guys, let's see, can I talk while I'm painting in these wings? I think I can do it. It's gonna come out a little bit from the circle. I feel like with guys, I talk about this a little bit, but I feel like part of the difference between male and female spirituality is that men kind of intuitively are doing like some form of systemic theology. Systemic theology is like when you are building up a system like from the ground up. So like sometimes if someone has like a work of like systemic theology, that's when it starts from like square one. Here's square one. Here's square two, and they build out like the whole system. Um, Pretty sure Calvin's Institutes is like that. Maybe that's like one of the more famous works of systemic theology I can think of right now. I don't know if City of God is a full-on systemic theological work. I don't actually know off the top of my head. Anyway, though, I feel like guys are kind of intuitively doing some form of systemic theology, so you can kind of like reason them out of it if they're into something that doesn't really make sense. Like you can kind of be like, well, look, or even if something, if you think something is faulty or things like that, you can kind of like reason them out of it, I guess you could say. But there's a special guest in the studio. Okay, cool. Sorry, my wife just came in to take something out of here. Whereas with women, I really feel like it's not like that. Especially with things like witchcraft and stuff like that. I feel like it is. I just feel like it's not like that. I mean, do you think you're gonna like take some data to your sister and be like, dude, all this stuff actually comes from this guy named Gerald Gardner, and he was lying about hanging out with these older Italian witches like they never exist, and actually these are all rituals that Aleister Crowley got from the Golden Dawn. Like, look, this pentagram ritual, it's actually from the Golden Dawn, and they took it from this 1400s Jewish book of prayer. Like, no, that's not gonna work. Like, she's not gonna care, right? Obviously, I mean, hey, maybe you have a unique sister. Like, I don't know, but I feel like in general that doesn't really work. So I feel like when I think about stuff like that, it's more like I kind of see the whole witchcraft thing as like a what's the word to use? It's kind of like someone's like spirituality is like a teapot. It's kind of like C.S. Lewis says you're made to like have some like relationship with the divine. Lots of people say that, not just him. I think that's true. So it's kind of like if you're like an orderly teapot, like the water goes in here and the steam comes out here, and I'm going to paint some eyes on these wings while I'm talking because I think it's going to look dope. The water goes in here, the steam comes out here. It's like a very like orderly mechanism. And I kind of view like the witchcraft thing as like someone kind of like coming in and like throwing a wrench in that. Not the person who's doing it, usually it's someone else. Like throwing a wrench in that or kind of channeling this like natural energy that's present into somewhere else. And I think that, if you're trying to change up how someone thinks about something, that's like a really good way to think about it, is not to be like, oh, this is like a purely pathological thing that needs to be cured entirely. I mean, you could say that, but I'm saying what's going to be useful for you to like come at it from, like what angle. I think it's more useful to be like, this person naturally has this inclination to seek out the divine and higher things in a certain way, and it's just being channeled into this you guys know, what should I say, improper format? What am I supposed to say? Something like that. So as for what you could specifically do, I can't really say, man. I mean, I will say that I don't really see this dealt with in like theological work, because I guess it's like not really proper to say. I don't know. I've actually never really seen a theologian deal with what I'm about to say. I'm sure they have. But I really do feel like there is a difference between male and female spirituality. I don't mean that in the sense of like there are different standards, or that there's different rules, or there's different I don't mean it like, you guys know my vibe. I'm not trying to like justify something that I'm not trying to justify. I'm gonna throw in these cobalt blue irises. I think it's gonna be sick. I'm gonna throw them in real quick while I'm talking. But I do feel like naturally there is like a difference between male and female spirituality, and I think that the perfect way to illustrate it is that's why women are drawn to things like witchcrafty stuff, and then guys are drawn to like printing out like 14 by 15 foot tables of like Hebrew Enochian characters and having it sync up with the 12 zodiac signs and sync up with the 9 planets and sync up with like, you know what I mean? There's just a difference. I mean, there's a difference between men and women's leisure activities, right? You don't really see women getting into like, I don't know, what's like a really intense like mathy like tabletop game and stuff like that, right? I mean, it happens, but not really that much. So I think that the way their like spiritualities manifest is different, and I think that I always think of things as having like a proper and improper manifestation, I guess you could say. Like, people get hungry. That could manifest in a good way as cooking like a nice meal, or could manifest in a bad way as like eating like 22 pounds of potato chips. So when I think of like the difference between male and female spirituality, I think of like the witchcraft impetus as like the inverted manifestation of it. I guess that's what you could say. I guess that sounds a little like esoteric-y. Maybe it is, but things have like a proper and like inverted manifestation in my mind. So like sometimes when I see things, that's like kind of how I think of it. So yeah, you know, women are more inclined for like the feely, touchy-feely stuff. I mean, have you seen like women get together and talk about like their feelings and shit? They're more inclined to like the naturey stuff. The naturey stuff kind of appeals to them more. And I think they have like kind of usually have like kind of like an antithetical relationship to like, I shouldn't say it that way. It's not that they have an antithetical relationship to like hardcore like systemic theology, but I think that they just don't really see it as intersecting with this. I don't mean this in a negative way. So any women watching, I actually kind of mean this in a positive way, but I just think they don't really see it as intersecting with this world of ideas and emotions that they inhabit. I think for most women, at least that I've interacted with, it's kind of like, you know, you break out the 900 to 1,000 page book about like X, Y, and Z hardcore theological concept. And I think for most of them, they're like, yeah, but I live in this world of like immediacy and this like doesn't really relate. Not really faulting them for that. It's just kind of how it is, I guess. So that's kind of like the lay of the land that I would give you. As for specific stuff you could do, I'm not really sure. I think that with that in mind, you can kind of see what's drawing her to that and see how you could like properly channel it. A lot of that stuff does burn itself out. But I'm not really sure. I'd have to know more specifically. Like getting into witchcraft could mean like, you know, I'm getting like these angel cards from like the New Age bookstore and like doing Zoom calls with my girlfriends and like talking about, you know, our day over these like weird New Agey cards. Or it could mean like sacrificing a chicken in like a steel pyramid in the backyard or something. You know what I'm saying? That would kind of be my off the cuff like response to that. All right. That was a good question. But now we're back to the painting world. I should just do like one video about like, people always ask me like why women are drawn to like new agey witchcrafty stuff. I'm not like faulting anyone. People always ask me. I should do like one video where I'm like, boom, this is my theory on why women are drawn to astrology and witchcraft. And then direct people to that video. Although I do enjoy talking about it. I don't want it to be my whole brand though. But I'm down to talk about whatever with you guys. Okay. So I'm going to break out a bigger brush right now. And I'm going to bleed out the color. Actually, I'll use a smaller brush. Let's see how this goes. And I'm going to bleed out some of the smaller colors around, there we go, around the OPHANIM, around the angel. Maybe I'll come back in and shade in the wings a little bit, but I'm not totally sure about that. Ugh, I love when the red bleeds out. It's so good. So good. I feel like for the bottom one, I don't want to get the small brush. When you have the paper like this and the paper is like fresh, you can see every tiny brush stroke. I don't really want that. It's not really the best look, so I'm going to try and draw it out with the thicker brush. Here we go. Perfect. So let's see what happens. There's a lot of water on the brush, but let's kind of just see how it goes, how much color I can pull out. And then for the color inside, I'm feeling like we'll get some kind of like light in there. Light, not like a light color, like literally like light. Like we'll throw down like some lemon yellow to represent like luminousness, solarity. Don't even know if that's a word, but I kind of gave up on only using real words a while ago and just kind of roll with it. All right, got some darkness coming down. We'll get some like light coming down from the angel too. There's also all these, so, you know, we're probably going to make a lot of circles with all the things we're talking about. There's also all these passages in the Old Testament about, like, God, like, being the glory in this place, and it's kind of, like, left ambiguous. I'm sure it's not theologically ambiguous, but just as you're casually reading it, it's a little ambiguous, like, what that actually means. So I always imagine, like, light, just, like, a ton of light, like, inhabiting this place. So we're actually going to throw down just some fat lemon yellow in the middle of this. Ooh, should we go lemon yellow or cadmium yellow? All right, here's the cue. Here's the question. So we got cold yellow, that's lemon yellow. We got warm yellow, that's cadmium yellow. I mean, let's go warm yellow. It's supposed to be light, right? So let's go with the warm yellow. Could do warm yellow in the middle, cold yellow on the outside, but let's see. Throw down a little bit of this over here. Okay. So we're going to throw down this color over here. Boom. Boom. Oh, also, just to get off that topic, but I will give that guy one more piece of advice. I feel like also like something that's kind of, this just kind of goes in general, but like I feel like a really good way of like dissuading someone of something, sometimes like things like that are kind of part of like an intellectual scene. This kind of goes for anything. If someone got into like certain politics or certain, whatever, it doesn't really matter what it is. I feel like this is not a philosophical argument against it, but I mean, who cares? It kind of works either way. Is kind of just directing them to look at like who the people are that make up that scene, and if they want to be like that, if that makes sense. It's not a philosophical argument, but intuitively people do kind of sense if something has like, frankly, like, I don't want to say like a bad aesthetic, but like a bad air about it, a bad vibe, a weird nature about it, and they can kind of get like dissuaded from it in that way. I mean, that was kind of one of the first ways I started breaking out of certain like groups and certain ideas. Like, even if I could like, I mean, for a guy, that's a perfect example of like the weird hardcore like ritual magic groups and stuff like that. Like when I was going really hard on that, and I even contacted some groups about trying to like meet up with them, I was like, it's like, these guys are fucking losers, man. I was like, God, I don't want to be wearing some robe in this dude's like basement. Like, what the hell? And like I said, that's not a philosophical argument. That doesn't mean like you couldn't do that in a debate and be like, oh, well, you guys are losers. So, but I think that when you're crafting your life and building your worldview, that is like a very powerful mechanism. And I know some people that were really into the witchy thing and then stopped identifying with it so much, not for that reason, but I think that maybe that was part of them like questioning it, maybe not. That was a big part of me with the occult, like I said. Not a big part. It was like the kickoff. Even someone like Terrence McKenna. Terrence McKenna talked about that. I was thinking about this the other day. In case you don't know who Terrence McKenna is, he's like the psychedelic mushrooms guy, basically. I used to be like a hardcore devotee of him, but we kind of parted ways on a few particular issues even before I stopped doing psychedelics, so not really like that anymore, but I used to be really into him. And he talked about, so I'm just going to get this like light just like pouring out of this angel. Oh, I should wet the bottom first. Yeah, perfect. Cool. That's the move. There we go. Get it nice and wet down here. Cool. There's a little bit of gray in this brush, but I actually kind of like it. I kind of like it a little bit, so we're just going to roll with it. Even he was saying when he was into ufology, like the study of UFOs, and he would go to these UFO conventions, that was like a big part of why he never got more into it, is that the people there were just, the word he used was like tacky. He was like, I really just feel like this is not it. He was like, the truth shouldn't look like this. And like I said, that's not an intellectual argument against anything, but that force probably drives people more than any actual intellectual argument sometimes. It's just seeing what the scene is like and if they really want to be a part of it. We always joke about like cringe. Everyone's always posting about cringe, but there's like an actual reason for that. It's because your brain has this like part of it that's like, whoa, back up. Something's wrong, but I can't exactly articulate why I have this revulsion. So that's a powerful force you can tap into if you're trying to help someone else with their development, in my opinion. Cool. That looks good. Kind of set a little scene down here. Cool. Okay. So, got the OPHANIM going on. Got the palm tree going on. I kind of want to put the rock with the 7 eyes down at the bottom. That was just such a tight symbol that I've been thinking about all week. I drew it in this drawing I posted on Patreon yesterday, so I want to get that down here. Here's the question, though. Here's the cue. When I throw this rock down right now, so here's the thing. I don't know if most people know this, but when you mix gray, so I could just take the black that I have and the white that I have and mix them together and make gray, obviously. Everyone knows black and white makes gray. But the thing is, if you take two colors that are opposites on the color wheel and then mix them together, those two pigments will cancel each other out and make gray. And that's a way you can make a lot more like lively grays. They're not as dead as just the straight up black and white gray. So I'm kind of feeling like I should do that. Just to keep it interesting. Why not? It's a little bit of like color theory I have to kind of like do on the fly, but whatever, man. Who cares? That's why we're here, is like do shit on the fly. So here's what I'm thinking, giving you my thought process. We got the cadmium orange ring coming up on the top. It looks dope, obviously. So just to give you a window into what I'm thinking right now, I have the orange that I want to use. I have many blues over here. I have cobalt blue. I have, that's purple. I have ultramarine blue. I have Prussian blue over here. I have many blues going on. What is that? So I have many blues going on, and I'm thinking about which one I'm going to mix with the orange. So here's how you kind of have to like think of it, how you have to do it. So I wish I had a color wheel. If you can't imagine a color wheel in your mind, it's a rainbow that's a circle. You should probably be able to imagine one. But if you can't, you can pull it up while I'm talking right now. So orange is next to red and yellow in the rainbow on the color wheel and the visible light spectrum. So I have to take this and not just think about it like, you know, a little kid, like, oh, it's orange. You have to think about what kind of orange it is. This is a really warm orange. I would say it's an orange that's like tending towards red, honestly, if I had to like peg it down. I don't think of it as like a yellow orange. It's definitely like a red orange probably. I'm looking at it over here, looking at it over here. It's a red orange. It's going to make that call. So that means that not only do I have to say, okay, orange is opposite blue, I need a blue, I have to say what's red opposite on the color wheel? It's green. So I don't just need a blue, I need a blue that is tending towards green to cancel out my orange that's tending towards red. Does that make sense? You have the main two things, orange and blue, and then the orange is tending towards red, so you have to go and turn the blue over, and you need a blue that's tending towards green. So actually cobalt blue isn't going to do it. That's blue with a red cast. Ultramarine is definitely not going to do it. That's a blue with a red cast. So let's try out the Prussian blue. I really never use this color. I only have it because I ordered this set of paints from Japan when I really needed some paint. But it's here. Let's roll with it. Prussian blue. Prussian blue, in case anyone paints out there, Prussian blue is kind of like replacing phthalo blue in my palette right now, which I'm cool with because I really don't like phthalo blue. It's a very like chemical blue to me. It always makes me think of the faience from like Egyptian sculptures. All those Egyptian sculptures that are like really blue, and they almost look like kind of chemical actually. That's what I think of when I think of phthalo blue. Prussian blue is a little bit more chilled out, but it still has that phthalo blue feeling. It has a feeling of like, you know, I feel like I want to glaze a pot with it. Like I want to glaze a cup with it or something like that. That's kind of the feeling I get from those very transparent, hyper luminous, like green blues. Got the palette knife going on. Okay. And let's just see how this goes. So what's going to happen is I'm going to mix these two colors, and it's going to be, oh, look at that. Love it. It almost looks black because it's so dark. So when you're painting, actually, let's see if can I get it thin enough that you guys can see the character of it? Kind of, but not really. Not really. So when you're painting, you're often going to have these like super dark colors, right? The way to reveal the character of them, that's the terminology I would use, is just hit them with a little white. So even before we drop the orange in, we're just going to hit this with a little bit of white right now, just so we can... Because I also kind of want to see. I never use Prussian blue, so let's see what it looks like when you add a little bit of white to it. With most of the colors, internally, I'm like calibrated to them if I've been using them for a long time. So with most of the colors, I know what happens. Like for the other blues, nice. Nice. It's kind of like a little bit of a stony blue vibe going on a little bit. I always want to use the word Delft blue. It's almost like a Delft blue. Let's see. It's kind of nice. It's kind of smoky. That looks good. That's a dope color. Interesting. Never really used this because, like I said, I've had my palette for so long that I know how all the colors like integrate together. So then when you get like a variable in, like another color like this, you never really know exactly how it's going to integrate, I should say, with the other colors. But, you know, can't always do the same thing. So, all right. So we got the blue. Happy about that. And I'm just going to start adding some orange in. Let's see. Don't want to add too much. This might not even work. Let's see how it goes. There are actually some there's some blue and orange combos that if you mix them, you get kind of like a green. In fact, that might happen right now. That would happen because if I was kind of miscalculated about the orange, I said it was like, there's a fucking hair from one of my brushes in there. Go away, dude. If I was kind of wrong about the orange being a red orange, if it was a yellow orange, then it'll kind of mix with the green blue and get to green on the color wheel. It's kind of like what's in between those two colors. But actually, it's a pretty good gray. It's kind of, I'm going to add some white though so we can see it. It looks really dark. Where's the white? Boom, here we go. So I'm going to throw down some white. I want the stone to be light. Actually, do I? Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do want it to be white. Did I tilt my canvas to get rid of the glare? Nah, man, everything's flat. Actually, the reason why there's no glare right now is that this goes for if you're photographing art. It's something really good to know. In physics, there's something called angle of incidence equals angle of reflection. I don't know if it's reflection or refraction, but who cares? This is not a science channel. What that means is like the angle the light comes in and hits the stuff is the angle it'll bounce back at. So right now I have one light that's right over here. It's hitting the paper and bouncing off and going over this way, so it's not going into the camera. The other light is kind of, if we're over here, it's like up that way. So it's hitting the paper and coming back out this way. So I tried to make sure that no light is bouncing directly into the camera. Before, I basically had the light right behind the camera. So the light would just come straight down and bounce right up back into the camera, thus giving us a glare. So I think it looks pretty good, actually. Let me know. I think this kind of situation with the high exposure looks really dope, and all the colors look pretty accurate. It looks like exactly how it does in real life. But let me know what you think. Let me know. So I'm going to add some white in here. Yeah, I think this is a pretty good gray. It's too blue, though. I don't know, actually. Actually, yeah, we want to add some orange in there. So I'm going to just fully mix this up. Have to like fully mix the colors so you can see. Yeah, we got a pretty good gray going on over here. I mean, it looks kind of blue in this context. That's the other thing. In case you haven't read On the Interaction of Color by Joseph Albers, which I recommend all the time. The colors are all like totally contextual. So you might be looking at this and you're like, dude, that's obviously blue. Like what's going on? But if you drop it in a painting, it can look gray. There's a lot of like, that's a perfect word for it, just the contextual nature of the colors. So I want to orange this up a little bit, but I don't want to put it fully into orange world. So let's see. Let's see how it goes. Yeah, it's a lot more gray. Cool. We'll add more white. I want it to be like kind of a light color in here. The stone is a really interesting symbol that's been surfacing a lot in my art, actually. That's another thing that has a really awesome... Wow, we got a really good gray. I'm really stoked about that, actually. That's another thing that... let's see, can we see how gray it is if we get out of this kind of blue situation over here? I mean, it's gray. It's straight up gray. That rules. Do I want to make it more orange, though? Do I want to push the envelope? It's still kind of too dark. Let's get some more light in here. Rule of color mixing, you can always make things darker really easily. It's pretty difficult to make things lighter. That's just something to keep in mind. Here it was unavoidable because we had to start with something really, 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 really dark. There was no way to start with something light here, but that's just something to keep in mind. Yeah, so the stone is like a really interesting symbol I've been working with recently just because it really beautifully ties in. There's a lot of Old Testament stuff with the stone and like rocks, and then you obviously have Peter, Petros, Christ, on this rock I'll build my church. So it's also just kind of like an atypical symbol. It's like a weird thing to like deploy as like a rock, like a stone. I'm working on this image right now about the rooster symbolism in Christianity. That ties in with Peter. You will deny me before the rooster crows and stuff like that. So I have the rooster like crowing, and then in front of him I have this rock, and there's these two keys next to the rock. So it's like a Petrine symbol, i.e. like a symbol of Peter. That looks dope. I think this is going to integrate well over here. Let's just go for it. I don't want to make it too orange because then it's like, is it wood? Is it rock? But this looks good. And I'm just, maybe it looks like I'm mixing it too much, but I'm just mixing it a lot because I don't want there to be like one streak of unmixed pigment in there, but I think we're good. Nice. Cool. So we made gray. In case you've never seen that happen before, that's how it goes down. And I could have done that with any two colors opposite each other on the color wheel. So purple and yellow could mix to make a gray. It would be kind of a different character than this gray right here. red and green I could mix to make gray. So that's something you kind of get a good handle on when you're painting. I did a series of prints once when I had access to this really crazy printing press where I was just letting the two opposite colors bleed into each other, and in the middle was gray. It was really cool. All right, let's keep it moving over here. Cool. All right, so I'm going to throw down this rock over here, and I want to make it big enough that I can get those eyes on it. I like the eye-covered rock. That sounds rad. So yeah, speaking of all the tie-ins between the Old Testament and the New Testament, part of what I was reading and thinking about is really interesting because, you know, if you hang around on, like, what do you want to call it? Idea internet, weird internet, where we all hang out together. Such a big theme for everyone, whether it's, you know, this person to that person is like modernity and like modern times, and then you get more academic, people are talking about like postmodern and stuff like that. And okay, so I'm going to throw in this rock. I'm kind of just going to use like a generic rock shape. It's kind of funny, the idea of like making sure I paint a good rock, but I actually want it to look like a rock. So come down a little bit over here. And it's interesting because modernity is like a temporal designation, right? Obviously. And it's just interesting thinking about how different cultures and different places like place themselves in time and like within time. And obviously there's some cultures that are within like cyclical time, you know, like the big meme. People don't really talk about this much anymore, but I guess I'm just in like different circles. But like Kali Yuga, oh my God, guys, Kali Yuga, and stuff like that. It's like a temporal designation, but like that temporal designation exists within like cyclical time. It's just interesting thinking about like people in the past. Like if you were some like Indian farmer who like really truly believed in reincarnation and cyclical time, I mean, like if one empire is rising, another empire is falling, like who really cares? I mean, it's all just like on this loop. It's just like playing on loop indefinitely. Like why would you really even care? And that's like such a big contrast between us where, you know, part of the, not to sound like an pretentious like YouTube philosopher, but like part of the condition of like modern people is that we feel very like locked into history, and like every event that happens, it's like, oh man, how does this affect this like story of history that we're writing? And we really like conceptualize ourselves as, you know, being part of this like domino effect of history. And that's how kind of like most people explain like how and why they are where they are. I have a point, but I also want to make sure I keep this moving. So what I'm thinking is that, I don't know, I could go a lot of places right now. What I'm thinking I'm going to do is put in a horizon line that's not gonna go all the way to this, but I'm gonna put in a little horizon line. Maybe we'll get like a tiny city in the distance. We're gonna put in the horizon line. I want to get the sun, and I'll put in kind of like sunset vibe, not Miami sunset vibe because we got the palm tree. Want to make sure that doesn't happen. But we'll get kind of like a color sun bleeding up effect over here while I'm talking, and then we'll come back. This will be dry, and I'll paint the eyes in on the rock. So, and I'm gonna use Venetian red. That's kind of like the line making color that I'm using right now. So yeah, it's just such a contrast to us who feel very like locked into history. And it's interesting because this wasn't in the book, but something I was thinking about, and I was just kind of going through the books of the Bible. And I mean, this isn't my own like original thought. I've heard someone talk about this before. I just don't remember who, but it's interesting. Is that part of the cool thing about the Bible, or at least the books of the Old Testament, and kind of what I should say, the philosophical view that I'm not a theologian, just a painter. That's the caveat I got to give every week. I'm just a guy that likes to paint, but I also do like theology. Is that within it you get these differing views of time in a way. Obviously, so I'm going to paint in this horizon. I really hope I don't fuck it up. I'll take it. I'll take that for sure. What I mean by that is, like, for example, I was reading something about the book of Ecclesiastes, and I mispronounced a lot of stuff because I didn't go to school for all this stuff. I just learned about it, like, in my room, so if I mispronounce anything, it's not really something I'm embarrassed by. But I was reading about the book of Ecclesiastes, and I was looking at it also. And in case you haven't looked at it, I think of that as, like, the most, like, downer book of the Bible. Like, one thing I like about the Bible is that, you know, it's, like, the word of God, obviously, but it's, like, through the voice of, like, different people, if you want to phrase it that way. Don't, like, hound me about that phraseology. But, so you get these kind of, like, differing views in a way. And I like that. I like that it doesn't give you, like, one
don't like crucify, not a good term. Don't like, pin me to a wall for this. But I feel like in general you do get sort of different, not different viewpoints. The viewpoint is cohesive, but you get different windows. That's how I should say it. You get different windows to look through. So I think of the book of Ecclesiastes as like the most downer book of the Bible. It's kind of like the downer, basically. In case you haven't read it, that's the one where it's like, everything's vanity. I've seen X, I've seen Y, I've seen it all. I've seen the farmer and the milkmaids and the painters and the markets, and it's all vanity. Everything passes away. There's nothing new under the sun. One generation comes up. They don't remember the generation before them. That generation goes down. Another one comes up. Just like you don't remember the people of the ancient past, no one's going to remember you in the future, and it's all basically on loop. And, there's nothing new. Everything's happened before. You just don't remember it because that's the condition of, like, this fallen world. And that's just, like, how it is, basically. It's kind of like the message that I got from it anyway. So it's interesting because that book paints a kind of cyclical view of time. But obviously that cyclical view of time is, like, nested within the linear view of time of the Bible. Obviously it's linear, right? You have Adam at the beginning. You have X, Y, and Z at the end. It's not a cycle. It's a straight line. But I was kind of thinking of it as, like, it's almost like it's like a river. And within that linear river, you get these like whirlpools of like cyclical time, like what's painted in the book of Ecclesiastes. And I kind of just thought that was interesting because, I don't know, I kind of feel like, obviously I'm biased because that's, the biblical worldview is like definitely what I identify with, obviously. But I kind of do feel like that's a really nice like merger of the two views that really does kind of, I'm getting the Venetian red off this brush in case you're wondering what I'm doing while I'm talking, that kind of does merge the two realities. Like on the one hand, like everyone can clearly observe that time is linear, right? Like you were born, you're going to die, it's a line. George Washington happened, the Civil War happened, World War II happened, now we're here. Like there is a straight line element, like for sure, obviously, right? But at the same time, there is this kind of like micro cyclical effect that I feel like also is worth acknowledging. Like in a way, there is also this like loop effect. There is this cyclical effect that happens on a small scale, but it just happens to be that the entire thing, when mapped out, doesn't fit into a straight loop. It doesn't like dovetail at the end where A meets B. So I don't know. I just thought that was kind of interesting. I was thinking about that as I was reading about like, different cultures, like conception of time and stuff like that. And I thought that was pretty interesting. Also because it started making me kind of think of, let's see, can I get the red diluted enough that I can have the red fade up out of the sun? Can I do it? I don't want to like make the sun disappear behind the red, but I do want enough red that it looks like the light is coming out. Let's see. So yeah, I was thinking about that as I was thinking of, the kind of like conception of time that we have and how we think of, ourselves like rooted in time. It's also interesting because I was posting about like, postmodern, and I have read some stuff on that and like what the deal with all that stuff is. And that is in and of itself a way of like designating time. Like we had modernity and then it like didn't really work out. So these people in these universities were like, okay, now it's like another thing. Like we're starting like a new chapter. And that kind of in a weird way, like, I don't know, just like, is it really that different from like, ancient people, kind of building these like mythological conceptions of time? Maybe not really. Maybe not. Maybe it is. Can't really tell. Okay, I'm going to get some other colors in here while I'm kind of fleshing out what I'm saying. So, yeah, and like, I don't know, like, basically what the guy in this book was saying, so to get to the book I was reading, what he was saying was that, I thought this was really awesome. I did want to talk about this. This is not my idea. I got this from this book I was reading, like I said. But what he was saying was that you have a purely like, so on another page, you have like a purely like mythological view of time where, let's say, like that Indian guy I was talking about, like some Indian farmer who has a cyclical view of time. He believes in reincarnation. For him, it's like, yeah, this empire rises, this empire falls, like whatever. That's not really why I'm here, though. And then he probably has some mythological. I don't even really mean mythological in the sense that it's not true, although I don't subscribe to like Northern Indian religions. But he has like a mythological conception where, actually the reason why I'm here and the reason things are like this is because of this, like, what we would call, independent of whether it's true or not, a myth about some gods and like things playing out in like a certain way. So you have this like mythological conception of time, and like that's a way like ancient people, you know, again, whether or not they were true or whatever, gave meaning to the seemingly like random and out of their control events that were happening like around them. It's how they like gave meaning to life, basically. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you have like modern people who are in like a completely like, yo, this looks sick right here, the sunset that I got going on. I think I'm going to paint like some kind of river down over here while I'm talking about this right now, because I did want to talk about this idea because I think it's really awesome. So then in modern times, you have people who kind of pride themselves on being like demythologized. Like most modern like scientific people would say that they like have no purpose for these like weird myths, or maybe they just think they're like academically interesting. And that their conception of history and where they are and why they're there is, I used ultramarine instead of cobalt because I was talking. Oh, F in the chat. Is real. They would say it's real. They're like, well, you know, yeah, I don't really believe in like all these weird myths and stuff. Like I'm here in this city because, you know, Lewis and Clark came here and then this happened and they were here because this war happened and then blah, 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 and this happened. And they're kind of like locked into this like historical conception of time that like, while maybe like real, like doesn't actually provide any meaning because it's really just these incidental and like circumstantial arrangements of events. And what this guy was saying, the whole point of like why I'm laying all this out right now, because I thought it was really cool, was that part of the strength of the Christian worldview, this guy that wrote the book is Christian. The book's called, I mentioned it before, but it's called A Time for Every Purpose Under Heaven. I can't read the title all the way from here, but it's called A Time for Every Purpose Under Heaven. It's something like an exploration of sacred history is the subtitle. So what he was saying is the strength of the Christian worldview is that it marries those two things together. You have, not using the word myth in the sense that it wasn't true, just to be totally clear, but you have the mythological aspect where you have God intersecting with the world and going through this process. And, you know, again, not using mythological in the sense that it didn't happen, but I'm using mythological in the sense that it is this this grand intersection of the divine with the real world that provides meaning for life, as myths do. You have that aspect of it, but that it happened in history, that it's rooted in history. So you have something like, you know, whereas an Egyptian person has like Osiris and the stories of the gods and stuff like that, you have something like that, but it's placed into a particular time and a particular place. So it's like if you have these two strands of how to view time, where you have mythological and then like real historical, they're wedded together in the Christian worldview because you have this intersection of the divine and humanity, but it happened in a particular place, in a particular time, under a particular ruler, and particular people were there. And I don't know, I just thought that was really, really interesting. I thought that was really, really, really cool. And just the idea that that was part of the strength of the worldview is that it's at once taking the strengths of the mythological worldview that provided meaning for ancient people and then wedding it because of the way in which it happened to our linear flow of history that we're forced to operate in because we're, you know, rational humans who exist in like a temporal context. And I thought that was really fucking awesome. I thought that was really cool, man. And C.S. Lewis was talking about that in the book. He was like quoting C.S. Lewis, and he was saying, you know, there's all these like myths, and there's myths of like the dying God and stuff like that, and you know, but here it's like wedded to actual real history because it actually happened in this like particular way. And I don't know, I thought that was really interesting, and somehow it really synced up with what I was thinking about, you know, like the Old Testament syncing up with the New Testament and these prophets like foretelling the future and stuff like that. I don't know. As usual, I have no point, but I'm just here to provide interesting angles and interesting information. And I thought that was really cool. I thought that was really awesome. Cool. All right, so I'm just going to lay down. After I go on like a talk like that, I'm always looking at the chat, and I'm trying to see if someone's going to be like, yo, what are you talking about? This makes no sense. But it's cool. All right. So I got this river going down over here. All right, so I'm going to paint in the eyes. I'll look at the chat. I haven't hardcore like taken questions. This looks pretty awesome so far. I've left the middle blank, but we'll see how that goes. Let's see. I want to see if I missed anything. No, I didn't really. Perfect. Nice. We got some F's in the chat for the ultramarine paint that will not be used. I'm actually going to outline. I'll do a few like little tweaks that I need to do while I'm talking to you guys. How far are we in right now? Whenever I check, it's been like an hour. Wow, it's been an hour and a half. Damn, that's crazy. It doesn't feel like that. Does it feel like that when you're watching it? I have no idea. It feels like it's been like 35 minutes, honestly, to me. But whatever. All right, so I'm going to darken up this gray. So that means I'm going to start kicking into high gear. We're going to start getting it going. And I'll look at the chat. I'll take some questions if people have got them. Not really questions. We can talk about whatever. Felix Yang asked, what books are you reading through now? Right now I'm reading that book I just mentioned, Intersection of Sacred Time and stuff like that. Like I said, the guy's a Lutheran priest. Just giving you his worldview. He was on Coast to Coast. I feel like those two facts, like I said before, like really sum up his vibe in my opinion. I haven't finished it yet, so I can't say if I recommend it or not, but sometimes I just need to read something weird and like off the beaten path. I need this to be darker, so I'm actually going to mix some Venetian red right in the paint. Sometimes I just need to read something kind of weird and like off the beaten path to like invigorate my process a little bit, just to like bump it up a little bit. I ordered a few books. I got a few books coming in. I felt like I needed just more stuff to read and like go through to keep it fresh in the studio. Just like the music I listen to, I'm kind of in the situation where whatever I'm reading is going to come out in the art that I'm making, and I have to think about that sometimes. So I got a few like compendiums of like mystical Christian writing. Sometimes it's nice just before I'm going to bed to like dig into like something frankly random and just like short that I can like check out and like, you know, get a little bit of the vibe going on. I got a few books on the symbolism of the Old Testament and the New Testament tying together. So that's really what I got going on. Then I've also been reading the Bible. Go figure, right? I had this moment a week or two ago where I was like, man, I don't know. And then I started reading the Bible and I was like, oh, that's what I should have been doing this whole time. And I've been making my way through the, let's see, what color do I want to make the eyes? Do I want to throw the cadmium down on the gray? Are we going to take it there? I think we should take it there. I know I'm mixing paint with the brush. Thanks for calling me out, though. I'm going to throw down I don't know, is orange on the gray going to look good? I actually don't know. Oh, it should be red. I'm going to mix a little bit of the cadmium scarlet in with the orange, and then that's the color I'll throw the eyes down. And then we got to start making fast moves. I don't want this to be like too long. I don't want it to be like over 2 hours or anything, so then we'll start making some fast moves. So that's what I've been reading mostly recently, is all that stuff, and that's what I'm poking into right now. I have a ton of books I have to get through, like just so many stacks on stacks, but I kind of just make those circles that I talked about and go through like different topics, so it all kind of comes around back at the end. What if there was a sword in the stone? Yeah, that would be sick, but then we're going to dial up like the Arthurian legend vibe up to 1 million and take down the Old Testament vibe a little bit too much. Maybe a spear would be cool. I'll think about that, though. Didn't know it was possible to over-mix paint. Nah, not really. Only with certain kinds of paint. There's some paint you can over-mix, like maybe tempera or something like that, but nah, you're good. You don't need to worry about that. How are the birds living outside your window doing? Yo, can you guys hear them right now? They're loud. They're living life. I actually learned that they're not robins, which I thought they were. They're another kind of bird. They're these birds called starlings. They're pretty cool, actually. All right, so we're painting these eyes. They're these like, I want the red to be kind of dark on the gray so we can see how that looks. We're going with the full like freaky Old Testament vibe. But they're doing awesome, man. They have a full-on like condo out there. It's insane. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah. You can hear the babies sometimes too. It's pretty awesome. Whenever I go hang out in the carport or hang out in my trunk, I see the mom like fly away. I guess she's worried I'm gonna like mess with them. But they're cool, man. I was thinking, you know, when I got this place, they should have told me there were birds everywhere. It's like a huge plus. It would have like sold me on the place way more. Like I can always hear them outside my I was gonna say apartment. I'm so used to living in the city. Yeah. Do you have any thoughts on early Christian martyr texts or Paul and any other cool stuff? The martyr stuff? Not really. The way I intersect with the early Christian martyr stuff is mostly through saint stories. Not sure if that's what you mean. Things like the Golden Legend. I guess the Golden Legend, this book I really like, is the main way I intersect with like Christian martyr stuff. Do I want to throw in the blue eyes on the rock? No, I'm going to keep it going. In the vision that I'm talking about with Zechariah, it says the eyes were like etched in the rock, so that's why I'm not going to throw down another color. We'll just use it with the red. And then we'll kind of decide what's going on over here. We'll start making moves. Not to like wrap it up, but we'll start looking at, what do I say like every time? Start directing the plane, you know. We're not like over the city we're landing in, but I want to start getting close. Yeah, so the way I intersect with the early Christian martyr stuff mostly is through this book called The Golden Legend. In medieval times, in most, I don't want to say most, I can't drop like hardcore academic facts like that, but in some places, it would be like the book you read like after the Bible. It's this compendium of early saints and stuff like that, and I really like it a lot, and it ends with a lot of martyry stories in there. A lot of the saint stories end in martyrdom, as you obviously know. Where do I look for books? It depends. Usually, actually, what I'll do is I'll kind of think of like a weird topic that I'm trying to check out, and then I'll kind of work backwards from that. So, like, I found this book because I was looking up stuff on Pico Mirandola, and I saw this guy wrote some books on that, so I poked into his archive. I saw he was on Coast to Coast, and I was like, man, who's this guy? And I ordered a few books from him. Usually I get them used on Amazon, so they're way cheaper. There are other sites if you don't want to support like Jeff Bezos. But yeah, usually I just get, if I can get books used, like in my mind, if I can get a book for under like $8, like honestly, if I think it might be cool, I'll just buy it. Most of the coolest books I've ever gotten were just picked up randomly like that I didn't really plan out. So yeah. Okay. What do I want to do right now? I will keep looking at the chat, but I want to start thinking about how I want to close this up. We're going good, but I feel like we're going good, but it's not like we're not totally there right now. It's not really happening right now. Got a few options like running through my head right now. Yeah, I could. Someone mentioned the staff. I was thinking about like a staff. We could get like a big staff coming in right here, and then like water coming from the rock. It's a different rock from the one with the 7 eyes, but who really cares? I'm trying to think just what's going to give me that like visual hotness that I really want, that visual like intensity. I feel like I just need to kind of go a little bit harder and less calculated, but I kind of want like one symbol that I can zoom in on and really use to pump up the vibe right now. I'm kind of thinking of like animals right now. I'm kind of thinking of like maybe like a crane or like a stork or something like that. That would be kind of dope. Do I want to take it there right now though? Maybe I do. Yeah, I think I am going to do that. I'm just going to pull up an image of a crane actually really quick just so I can look at it to make sure I don't totally mess that up right now. Pulling it up. Someone asked me, did I get out of the city into Appalachia? Yeah, dude. I'm actually not in Appalachia, though. Oh, if you search crane on Google, you get a crane like the man-made device. That is ridiculous. Okay, cool. Yeah, it's good enough. I just want to make sure I don't like totally mess up the shape. Could go with like an animal like that. What's like some Old Testament symbolism I could get going? Oh, a lion. Dude, that's what I was thinking before. Yes, Fritz Pendleton coming through. Man, it's so funny. Before the stream, I was thinking about painting a lion in here, but I totally forgot. Yeah, I drew this really awesome panther the other week, and I was thinking about pumping up like the big cat symbolism. So yeah, we're going to do a lion for sure. Oh, that's exactly what I was thinking. Oh, and you know what else I said I was going to do last week? Wait, let's see if I can find it really quick. Is I said I was going to get the gold in, and I didn't do it. So let's get a lion in with the gold halo. Let's do that. I got some gold paint. That's how we're going to wrap this up right now. All right, last 20 minutes. I'm going to paint a kind of quick lion, so I don't know how dope it's going to be. I mean, it's going to be dope because I painted it, but I'm going to try and, like, honestly rush it a little bit. Someone asked me if I got out of the city and stuff. Yeah, man. I moved out a year and a half ago. It was a while ago, but yeah, it's awesome, man. I hope I never live in a city again for the rest of my life. I really hope I don't. I really, you know, I care for, I know there's like cool people that live in New York, and I feel for them, and, you know, they're cool. But in terms of me and that place intersecting, honestly, if I didn't know people that live there, I would say I was never going to go back ever again. I love living out here. It's awesome. I don't live in Appalachia, just to be clear. I'm not like trying to like cover for myself. The guy asked me. I actually don't live in Appalachia, but I live out somewhere far from any cities. What's your take on logo? Oh, we got drama. Someone's asking about drama now. What's your take on logos? Recent rants. Re Paul in the church. Yeah, he did. I did see him posting about that a little bit. I couldn't say specifically. I don't like talking about like specific people and like what they're talking about and make it seem like I'm like talking shit or something. So I'm not. I don't want to talk about like him and like what he was saying. I would have to like go back and pull it up. I just saw like one or two tweets, but yeah, he was like going off about it. Okay, when I'm gonna paint this lion, I'm gonna try and go like 400 AD, like maybe kind of like primitive looking, but I want to get the mouth open. Getting the mouth open, I feel like is pretty essential. So I'm gonna come in. Should I use a smaller brush? No, it's the last 20 minutes. We're gonna go for this right now. So I'm just gonna throw in. Let's just go for it. But on that vein, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I view there's a few forms of Christianity that. So just to be clear, I'm not talking about logo. I didn't read like all his posts, so this is not like crypto, like me talking about him. But on the vein of like what, like questioning Paul, like that's kind of the vibe, right? Like questioning if like if like early Christianity like got it right. It's kind of like the vibe you're asking about, I guess. If that's like all he was talking about. Yeah, there's a few. Hold on, I want to get this face in here. I'm gonna get these ears in here. So yeah, I'm gonna go for like 400 AD. Like, it's nice. Part of what's cool about the medieval painting vibe is like sometimes people had never seen these animals before. You get that a lot in like Central Asia or like the Middle East or early Europe. So actually, pretty much anywhere you get it is like someone's painting an elephant, but like they probably never saw an elephant in their life before. And I like kind of channeling that energy where it's just like their idea of like what the animal would look like. So I'm going to kind of try and get that with the lion going on over here. So it's kind of like a generic monstery animal face. Yeah, there's a few like forms of Christianity that are really into that. They're like very not mainstream. They're like, isn't that like kind of Jehovah's Witnesses whole thing, right? Is that and I'm gonna get the like chunky big legs that I usually paint in. Get chunky big legs going on over here. It's kind of aggressive, like primitive. We're gonna get a little bit of primitive energy going on. Yeah, isn't that like Jehovah's Witnesses whole thing that like Constantine was like wrong to call the council, and that the council like got it wrong because of like political interests, and they're not even like Trinitarian, right? I'm not totally sure. I'm not even like talking shit, but I think that's their deal. Is like Jehovah's Witnesses think that like even like the Nicene Creed and all that stuff is like wrong basically, and that it was a result of like politics and like historical situations at the time. So there are some Christian groups like that. I don't know. It's not really my vibe, honestly. Do I have like a philosophical like refutation of it? I don't know. It's just not really my thing. There's this guy on Twitter that, I mean, you could say I'm friends with him. I don't know him that well, but I think I'm friends with a lot of people, I guess. He's cool. That became Jehovah's Witness, and I asked him why, and he sent me this thing, and I read most of it. I didn't read the whole thing because it got deleted off my phone. But that was basically the thrust of his argument, was that the whole Trinitarian thing was like incorrect basically, and it was the result of like, I mean, what I took away from it was that it was a result of like politics at the time. I feel like Logo was posting a little bit about stuff like that. I don't know. I just am kind of like, I guess I can't really articulate why I don't really like it, but it's just not really my vibe. I mean, this is not like a philosophical refutation, but I just feel like if you're kind of unpacking it like to that degree where you're like going all the way back to like X year AD and being like, yo, actually everyone since this time has been totally wrong about Christianity in the most like fundamental way, then I mean, like, I don't know. How do you know if anything else is real? I mean, like I said, that's not like really a philosophical refutation, but I mean, if everyone could be wrong about such like a fundamental thing, then like, how do you even know that like the Gospels are real? Like, how do you even know that like, you know what I mean? I feel like I'm very into like questioning everything, obviously. I'm not even saying it shouldn't be done, but I don't know. It's kind of a lot to unpack. I'm not really sure what I think about it, but I really like the early Christian guys, and I don't know, I think they were right about stuff. I don't know. Is that so controversial? If someone had a really, really strong case, though, I would hear it out. I would hear it out for sure. That's kind of my vibe about that. Camel? Nah, no camel. Camel too straight Middle Eastern. St. Mark vibes incoming. Yeah. I don't know anything about him really. I saw he's done some cool art. I know he did a video on like the symbolic nature of flat Earth, and I really want to check that out. I saw him. I don't know if this is true. Wasn't he kind of in like a beef with Jay Dyer in like a weird way? And like, whatever you think about Jay Dyer, I know some people don't like him. Like whatever. I was on his podcast. He's a cool guy. I like him. I'm not gonna like throw him under the bus. I think he's a cool guy. But whenever I saw him like kind of beefing with Jay Dyer a little bit, right? And I feel like, I don't know. I feel like when I see people who like maybe talk a little shit but don't want to like back it up, it kind of makes me be like, what's this guy's deal? But that being said, I don't know anything about it. I don't really know anything about him. He seems cool. His art is dope, man. And I mean, if he's talking about symbolic nature of flat Earth, I mean, I'm down, right? Obviously, I'm down. Okay, I'm going to kind of throw in with like a light wash the color of this lion right here, just so we can get things. That is not a light wash. That is full-on paint. Entity and stuff, that's the first thing I think of. I think the Mormons are also like non-Trinitarian, right? But I'm not totally sure about that. I am not totally sure. Alright, I'm going to throw in this line color. This was a good call, but I might need to outline it. Like, I'm going to outline it in a darker color so it'll like punch up a little bit more. We'll get this guy looking like tough, and then we'll wrap this up. Might even make him like on fire or something cool. Kind of try and like dial this up a little bit. The squash the beef in a private talk. Nice, that's how men do it. I like to see it. I don't like to see drama on the timeline. That's something I'm very against. I'm very against internet drama. I'm not about it. I think it's probably because most of the places that I worked in were often largely women. So I would go to work and have a lot of drama, and then I come home and look at my phone and I'm like, guys, I don't have the energy. Like, why are you seeking out drama on my phone right now? I don't think I've really had any drama with anyone actually online ever. So I'll kind of try and keep that streak going. Okay, cool. I'm going to throw in the face really light. I'm planning on, I don't know, maybe I'll just kind of like roughly put in like a gold halo. I don't know. Let's just see. We're going to try and like get this going. Cool. Oh no, is the stream down? I still have a green light. Is it working? Oh, it just came back. It's back. Interesting. I have a green light. It says my kilobytes are killing it. Let me know. I'll keep an eye on the chat. It's been good, except for one time. There's only one time that the internet wasn't good. Alright, so we're going to throw in this face over here. And yeah, I'm feeling like the rough gold. Maybe I'll even just go nuts and like get the gold all on the outside also. Cool. We're going a little bit like Ethiopian manuscript style, like where they have the paint like all chunky and stuff. It's kind of like the vibe we're going for right now. And we'll make it so this lion isn't just like pasted in here. Maybe he'll be like looking at something or something like that. We're going to let the Rastafarians fully have the Lion of Judah symbolism? I don't think so. That in there, and I'm going to come up over this way. Oh, it came back and I was talking about drama with women and stuff. Oh, it cut out a few times. Man, internet company freaking sabotaging me. Yeah, I was just saying I don't really do internet drama. If it goes out again, if you put the @Owen Cyclops tag, then I see it. Otherwise, I have to like read through the chat really hard, and I kind of just like can't do it. All right, so I'm going to outline this lion right now in some Venetian red going on. Okay, I have a feeling this is gonna like get really dope when I throw down the gold. Let's see. Kind of try and make it like last 15 minutes style. Doesn't look like we're close to the end, but I think I can close it up pretty soon. So I'm just gonna quickly kind of come in here. Yeah, I was saying I don't think I've had any drama with anyone yet online. It's been a few years, so hopefully it's not gonna happen now. I don't know if I just jinxed myself. That's not my style. It's not a good look. It's not a good look. All right, coming in. All right, that looks dope. Yeah, the Black Israelites. Yeah, they're interesting, man. Yeah, when I was in New York City, I used to see them a lot, dude. I got in an argument with one time. That was pretty interesting. I actually, it was funny because I had just come in, so I just went in on the subway. And if you've ever seen the Black Israelites in real life, like they're exactly like you see on the YouTube channels, like where they're standing all in a group, like yelling at people. So normally I just ignore them, right? Like I said, I'm not really like drama inclined, so I'm not gonna like get in an argument with one of them. But I had just come down in the subway. It was in Union Square actually, and it was raining, so I was all wet from the rain. And this guy, I was waiting for my train, so I couldn't really go anywhere else. I mean, I could have walked down the platform, but like I'm not that much of a bitch. So this guy is just like going off on me with this huge like platinum Star of David, this like Black Israelite guy. And he's like, "You look like a wet dog." He's like, "You look like a wet monkey." And he was like being like really like aggressive, just like the YouTube videos, like going off on me. So I kind of was just like, "Yo, why are you wearing the Star of David, dude? Like, what?" And I like got in this talk with him, and I don't know, the angle I came at it from with him was I was like, this isn't really like a Jewish symbol. Like the Star of David is like retconned like into Judaism. Like I didn't phrase it that way, but it is actually if you look into it. So I kind of came at it from that angle, and I was like, "Do you have no idea what you're talking about?" I was like, "If your whole thing is like, that you guys are like the real Jews," I was like, "This is a modern like Jewish symbol. Like you shouldn't be wearing this. Then you should be wearing like a menorah or something." I could tell he kind of didn't really know what to say. I don't know. I was standing there and he was like, "You wet dog." He's like, "You look like a wet monkey." And I was like, "All right, dude, I'm just waiting for my train. Like, we can talk about it if you want." I also met kind of the opposite of like a Black Israelite on the same train station one time. I got on this train and I was going really far. It's also from Union Square. And this guy sat down next to me. Only because it's relevant to the story. He looked like a Black Israelite. He was dressed out with like this gear and like stuff like that. And he started talking to me and he was like, "Yeah, like your ancestors were," it was kind of the opposite of like the Black Israelite talk. He was like, "Your ancestors were explorers." He was like, "Your ancestors like sailed out over the ocean and brought like civilization to other continents." And I was like, "What?" I was like, "Am I getting pranked right now?" And we had this whole talk about it, and he was like, "Yeah, like because that's what he just kept saying. He was like, "You should be really proud, like, of your ancestors and all this stuff." And I was like, "Is this like the alt-right black guy I just met, like on the subway in Union Square?" And we talked for a while. It was pretty weird. And then at the end of it, yeah, he told me he was hanging out with this Orthodox Jew and getting into Judaism, and I was like, "Oh, so you're like a proto Black Israelite." I was like, "You're like level 1, like you're about to be like getting into it." So that was pretty interesting. Talked to a lot of weird people on the subway. Got a lot of weird stories there. That actually happened though. Sounds like that was fake, but that actually really totally happened. I think just because of my vibe, like crazy people in New York have always felt like really comfortable talking to me. I mean, I'm kind of down. I was always jealous of the guys doing like subway preaching. Like you get into a packed subway car, and then some guy just starts like preaching and stuff really hardcore. So I was kind of jealous. Kind of liked it. All right, boom. There we go. Cool. So with the line coming in, should have put like some wings on him or something, but actually I kind of want to do that now that I said it. I think I will do that. All right, I'm going to throw in some fat like brushes of gold. We'll see where we're at. We'll probably wrap it up soon. We're almost there. We're getting there. We're getting there, but we're not quite there yet. So I'm going to throw down some gold. Oh, yeah. Look at that. There we go. The first time gold is making an appearance. I'm going to do it. I have no idea how it's going to react with like the huge brush and the gold, but let's just see. Might like not be enough. It might be like too diluted. What I want to do is get like some of the gold in here. A little shiny. It's not as shiny as I would like. And I want to just get like some fat. I need a smaller brush for it. Can I just get this going on? Let's see. Interesting. Interesting vibe going on right now. I'm going to get some like, I want it like to be big. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, it's yellow now. Oh, it's red now. Yeah, I got yellow and red. It's going back up though. Yeah, that blows. Why? Back in green, back in red. Why? No discernible reason. Can I close anything on my computer? Orange, that's a new color. I'll close the other tabs. Green? It's green now? It's green. It's back to being green. Will it stay green? It's green still. It's kind of, let's see how it goes. See if it stays green. Let's bring the camera out a little bit. Start getting the full picture going on. It's green. I think we're doing okay. But let me know. I have no control over the internet. I guess since it's lagged twice, I'll try and figure it out in like the interim. Before we do the next week's show. Right now, there's nothing I can do. I think we're good. Yeah, it's back to green. I don't know why. Maybe my wife's like watching a movie or something. Were you guys on the stream where I went in and told her to stop? To get off the computer? Oh my god, that was so funny. No one was there, but it was just really funny. I left the room and came back and told her to get off the computer. Okay, so what I'm going to do right now, we're kind of in like experimental mode. I'm not really married to this like coming out like honestly like super perfect or anything, so I kind of just want to see what I can get going effect-wise with the kind of like messy, kind of like yellow halo. So we're gonna go into straight experimental mode. It might come out good, it might not. Actually, it looks kind of dope. But I just want to get like, a little bit of a painterly energy in, and then what I want to do is come in with the other gold. I kind of want it to be like ambiguous in his mane if it's like fire or not. Oh no, that's fine. We'll just use the other gold. Stick with one kind of gold. Okay, well. All right, so I'm gonna start trying to wrap this up right now, but I'm gonna get some gold in here. And I think I'm going to paint like a little bit of like, there we go. Just get a little illustrative. Just get it going. Let's just see what happens right now. Cool. And within that yellow, the paper towel looks sick with the gold. I'm going to drop some of the excess paint that we have over here. So I'm just going to grab some orange right now. I'm just going to like lay it in. I'm just going to start. What I've done is I've kind of my dad's really into cooking, and he always says you can't cross the streams when you're like making like different kinds of food. Like if you're making like Italian style food, you can't get like Mexican flavor in there. If you're making like Asian style food, you can't get start getting like European flavor in there. He says you can't like cross the streams. So I've kind of done that a little bit here. We were kind of locked into like tight kind of like primitive painting mode, and now I've made it all like painterly, but whatever, it's fine. I kind of like it actually. It looks kind of dope. Okay, that's cool actually. I'm gonna try and get a little bit of the color on the outside over here. All right, now we're cooking. Let's get it going. I want to start wrapping this up. Kind of crossed over fully into like sketching mode, but I do like how this looks. And I'm actually going to kick up some of the blue too. Let's see, maybe we're just like too tight. Cool. Okay, so I'm going to get some of the blue. Just like, see what I can get going over here. I just want it to like bleed out a little bit. I just want it to be a little more chaotic. Maybe I should just come in. I don't want it to be totally muddy, but I'm kind of just going to see what happens right now. Then I'm going to dry it up a little bit. I think that's going to be the move. Okay. And then, okay. All right, I'm gonna start making some big moves, and then we're gonna wrap this up. What I'm thinking right now is I kind of want to put some in here. Obviously, the lion's kind of like growling at something. What I'm thinking is it could be kind of like a green pasture, or it could be something kind of like dark and evilly. I could put like a little ball and make it like night over there, and that sounds kind of dope. So I think I'm gonna do that. Let's just kind of go for it. I'll throw down some like dark areas of night and like contrast it with the day. And then we'll wrap this up. And like I said, the whole point of this thing isn't to make putting on my Bob Ross hat. The whole point of this thing isn't to make like, super tight, like finished images that'll like go in the Louvre or something like that. It's just to kind of like be painting. And, a big reason why I wanted to do this was just kind of get that vibe out there. Like when you're painting, you can just like be in it and not be worried about things going perfectly and stuff like that. You don't really have to have that mindset like all the time. So it's kind of what I'm doing right now. I'm gonna drop some stars in the sky over here. And actually, I'm gonna throw in. Here we go. This is gonna be dope. I'm gonna throw in the darkness on the eyes. It's kind of loose. Kind of could have been a little tighter, but it's okay. I like it actually. Cool. All right. Quickly gonna throw in some snake. Ooh, that's classic. Yeah, maybe the snake. Throw in some white stars over here. This is a fun one. Anything else we need to talk about? Anything else anyone wants to ask me? Anything like that? Because we're gonna start wrapping it up. Let's see. Boom, 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 boom. I love night. Night is one of my favorites, sort of, if you want to call it a symbol. It's one of my favorite, like, things you can kind of deploy as, like, a symbolic element in a picture. I really like it a lot. Maybe I'm just going to boom right there. Yeah, that looks dope. Any cool art plans you can mention or hint at? Oh, buddy. Yeah. Yeah, I will. That's how we'll wrap it up here. Yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of feeling some green element in here. I mean, I kind of want to make it like a little pasture or something. I don't know. But someone said snake, and that sounds really dope. Let's roll with the snake. That's going to be tighter. But I'm not going to make it a green snake, as I always use a green snake. I'm going to make it a little bit of a different color. Man, this paper towel looks awesome with the gold. I'm not sure you can see how gold it is, but it looks sick. Okay. Let's just paint in this dark snake. I'll paint in this dark snake. That'll be kind of the end, I think. Maybe I'll give it like a red halo or something cool, and then we'll wrap it up. But yeah, I can. Yeah, the new comic. Yeah. I can talk about that for a second. Yeah, so I posted the sex comic. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. I mean, obviously I made it, so I think it's really dope, but it was very well received. And that's awesome. Yeah, I will tell you guys what I'm thinking, actually. I try and not make it like my whole image that I'm this like reformed person. Like, so I try and not talk about it literally like every day all the time, but it's relevant to this. So yeah, I made that sex comic, and I had like a very like clear vision of what I should do, which is that I've kind of always wanted to make something. Oh, this is going to be tight. This looks dope right now. I've kind of always wanted to make something where it's kind of about the whole like process that I went through, I guess you could say. But it's always been like too much. It's always been like too much to unpack in a sense. Like there's so many different elements to the story that it's too much to paint the full picture, of like all the different interlocking threads, I guess you could say. Yeah, this was definitely the right move. So after I made that comic, I didn't really anticipate this at all in the beginning, but what I had the vision of was I could make kind of a graphic novel where each chapter was a different color and dealing with a different topic. And I could just see the whole book like so perfectly, where it's like, here's sex, weed, psychedelics, occult, alcohol, maybe some chapter at the end, like, I don't know, religion or art or something, but that they would each function like independently, but also come together, and the fact that each one would be a different color would just be so dope in a graphic novel type situation. And I had that idea, and I was like, wow, I really need to make that. That would just be such an ultimate like culmination of this one particular aspect of my vibe. The only problem is honestly that yeah, someone said put stars on the snake. Yeah, I'm gonna do that. I actually kind of wish I gave a snake like a dark halo, but can't have it all. And I want to make sure I don't put one where the eye is, because I want it to just be, yeah. I like doing this thing where you use the night as like a shape after like establishing that it's night in like other places. So yeah, anyway, I had that vision for that like graphic novel, and honestly, the only problem is that it's so like, not to like emo kid out, but it's so like emotionally taxing. Just put myself in that headspace of like going over like all this stuff. Like it's literally like, it's like if you have this room in your house that's like your past and you're like aggressively digging through it, and like because it's visual, I'm like remembering like all this like very particular stuff. So yeah, but also at the same time I feel very called to it. I feel like in a way, like, I don't know, I never try and like aggrandize myself and be like, God has chosen me. I don't really think of it that way, but I kind of think of, I think there's some probably reason that I was led through all these like really dark places and that I kind of got out of it. And sometimes I think that part of it is so I could like talk to other people about it. And I just really feel like I'm very called to do it and that I have to do it, even though I really kind of don't want to. So yeah, I'm probably going to work on that and make that happen. So that's kind of the next thing. What I'll probably do is just keep it on the back burner and not really talk about it too much until I post the actual like comics themselves. The other thing that's kind of nice is that just because of the nature of what I'm doing, it would be very stupid and counterproductive for me to do the whole thing and then only sell it as a book on Amazon. So what I'll probably do is like release it as it comes out and then sell it at the end as a full, totally graphic novel together. Like I said, like you guys see my whole vibe. Like I'm not gonna like not reach people with like a message that I feel is very important, so I could sell like 100 more books on Amazon. Like I went to the trouble of moving out to like the middle of nowhere and like starting this whole art studio, and like this is all I do every day. So I'm not gonna like cut it short like and not broadcast the propaganda like full blast. So yeah, I am going to do that. I kind of already planned it out, and I'll probably have that on the back burner for the next like year or so as I just churn out like the different chapters. Basically, every time I sit down to do it, I can make like 3 or 4 pages over 1.3 days. I am like very obsessive with like planning my time, so I did realize that I can make like 4 pages over a day and a third. If I take a day and a third and allot all that time, I can make about 4 pages. So that's kind of just what happens. I kind of set aside like Sunday and Sunday evening to like do that usually. But yeah, it's kind of the next plan. So you asked me. So probably not going to tell anyone that off the stream. But yeah, that's kind of the plan for a little while. If you watch this whole thing, then I'll tell you. Okay. I think this looks dope. Oh, I'm going to add a little halo on the serpent. Kind of like a dark halo, I guess. Like a red halo. And then we're going to be wrapped up. Anything else I should talk about though? Not really, man. Not really. That was a very cohesive picture. We talked about the sacred time stuff I want to talk about. Talked about Old Testament, New Testament. I'm going to be reading the minor prophets of the Bible for a little while and going hard on Old Testament vibe. If anyone's really classic Owen style, then you remember when we did Reactionary Bible Circle. That was dope, but I don't have any time anymore. I actually only did that when I stopped smoking weed, and it was really good for me, but I don't have the time to like run it anymore. But we did these Twitter threads where we were all reading the Bible together, and it was pretty tight. So yeah, I'm going to be reading that stuff, thinking about the books of the Old Testament and how they relate to the New Testament and covenants and stuff like that. That's my vibe right now. You've cohesively synthesized the vibe. Want to thank you again for directing me to the Metro Museum for references to tribal art. Found a ton of great stuff on the site alone. It was a big help. Oh, hell yeah, dude. Yeah, that guy asked me about where he could see some different vibes, and most people don't know this, but most museums, most like big museums, have everything online. They'll have their whole collection online, and you can just like go through it. So that's a really good way to, if you want to look at some art or like figure things out, it's a really good way to like poke into stuff. just want to kick up the back of this halo so it's not like totally blending in with the tree over here, and then we're probably done. So yeah, we hit the time stuff a little bit, the Christian time, sacred time, that kind of thing. And I talked about the next project I'm going to be working on for a while. So yeah, also it's pretty cool. Since we're at the end, I will just mention this. Like, you guys all know we're part of a certain circle online, but it's cool because I get messages from people that are totally not part of that at all. Yo, this looks dope with the little yellow kicked up in the back. I actually really like this. That are totally not part of that at all. That like see the comics and like message me and stuff. I thought it was funny because a really good example of what it's like being on my end. I just thought you guys might find this interesting. Is like within the sex comic, there's that one panel where the guy is like trying to talk about something, and there's all these speech bubbles coming in from the outside, and it's like it says something like men are kind of subtly conditioned not to talk about this kind of thing, and there's speech bubbles coming in that are like, oh, you're kind of a misogynist, like, oh, you just hate women, like, oh, you're just an angry, like, it doesn't say incel loser, but that's like kind of the vibe that I'm pitching. And when I put it in, I was kind of like, is this like too cliche? Like, I feel like I'm obviously like pumping like the classic like talking points here. It's kind of lame, but I did it anyway. And I got these two different guys that messaged me that were like, hey dude, like, I really like that you put that in. Like, I feel like that sometimes, but I've never really seen like anyone talk about it. Like, it was really subtle. Like, thanks. So it's kind of interesting. Like, we're really in the bubble of, it's not really a bubble. It's like what's a cool word for a bubble? We're very in the sphere that we're in, let's say, and we're all used to the same like talking points and hearing them over and over. But I think we kind of forget that there's like a huge world of people. I mean, I forget, let's say. I don't want to project that on you guys. It's like a huge world of people outside of that who have never heard anything like that before. And for like these two guys, even just something like, yeah, society kind of tells men not to like talk about their problems, which for most of us is like, oh, hello, like 2015 department. They were like, wow, yeah, it's so cool that you mentioned that. Like, I've never seen anyone talk about that. So I don't know. It's kind of not really going to end on that note, but I feel like it's something we should keep in mind, like, as we're thinking about like, changing things and like getting our ideas out there and stuff. It's important to remember that like there's people who are on like square 99 and people who are on literally square 0 all the time. So that's just something I like to keep in mind. I never really like shit on anyone who's like, pumping like the 101 talking points, because there's always someone who has never heard of it, dude, all right, anyway, let's see. I'll wrap this up. I'll wrap up talking about this. I'll see if there's any questions I should hit, and then we'll wrap it up. We're like a little bit over 2 hours. I'm trying to get these in my mind. They should be like an hour and a half, but I feel like realistically they'll be like 2 hours. So that just is what it is. As for the painting, looks dope, man. I could have hustled along a little bit more in the beginning, but what are you going to do? I really think this was successful in terms of like you guys seeing me kind of like thinking about it and talking about it in real time. I've been calling these like painting sketches, where, like I said, it's not really meant to be like a finished piece of like fine art. It's just me thinking through like the artistic process and like talking about it. That was kind of the whole reason why I wanted to do this stream in general in the beginning. So yeah, really like how this came out a lot. If I did it again, I would do a few things differently, but it's a really cool idea. I might use it for a graphic or something. I really like the darkness. I kind of didn't really take my own advice, because I always say that like if you feel like your picture is missing something, it's probably missing contrast. Contrast being like the intersection of really, really dark and really, really light. So yeah, once I started adding the night in, and the snake looks really tight, especially with the snake's form, it kind of contrasts with how loose everything else is. I feel like it really worked. I am still getting used to like doing the watercolor stuff on the fly. So maybe next time, I don't really know what I'm gonna do next time, but I'm always kind of like learning as I do this. So there you go. But yeah, I think this looks dope. That's basically it. Good color scheme. This is a good example of something called a split complement color scheme, if anyone wants to get really technical, where red and orange, what's in between red and orange, and then you take the opposite of that. So here we have red and orange, and then we have these dark blues. So it's kind of like a split complement color scheme a little bit. Anyway, yeah, so I think it's going really well. I'm going to hit a few things in the chat, and then we'll wrap this up. Any suggestions on good documentaries to watch? Things like Missing 411 or other esoteric off the beaten path stuff. Let me think about that. I don't subscribe to this theory, but there's one called Symbols in an Alien Sky that's really good, or Symbols in a Forgotten Sky, something like that. That's a really, really, really weird one. Something weird to check out. Metanoia had a few good documentaries that are really dark. Metanoia films about like alphabet intelligence agencies and things like that. Those are the two things that jump off the top of my head. Dark, CIA style, Metanoia films, just the weirdest thing possible, symbols in an alien sky. Those are two things that just jump out the top of my head right now. Watching this is inspiring me to draw. Thank you, dude. Hell yeah, that's the whole point. Hit me up if you want to talk about materials and stuff like that. If you're going to start drawing from watching this, hit up the still life drawing tutorial on my site. That'll take you all the way there. You will go so far if you do that. Do it. Last thing, when is Chat Decides Day? Yeah, I've been talking about that. Let's do that next time. We'll do that next time. I've been talking about doing something where as I'm painting, I just take input from the chat and take the symbols you guys are mentioning and make something with that. Let's do that next time. Let's do it next time. Unless I think of something really dope, and then I'll probably push it back a week. But if we do it, I'll tweet it the day before, and then we'll all be on the same page. But yeah, we should do that. Like where if I'm like, oh, what should I paint here? And then I'll look at the chat and take a suggestion. That would be kind of dope. Let's do it. I mean, I'm not going to paint like a dick or something, but pretty much other than that, everything's on. Otherwise, that's basically it, guys. I really appreciate you guys watching this. I really like how it's going. I feel like it's going well. If you watched it and want to let me know, it's dope. Here's this thing I noticed maybe is not working well. It was lagging like the whole time. It only lagged a little bit. The light looks good. Your hands look weird. I don't know, whatever. If you want to tell me something, let me know. Otherwise, yeah, I think this is going really well. And yeah, all right, we'll close up. Yeah, I did see that in the chat. Actually, this is the last thing we'll talk about. One guy kept asking about ravens. Yeah, I saw that actually. I only saw it like once or twice when I was talking about something. Symbolism for ravens. Yeah, man. I mean, it's like a dark bird, so it carries like all of that symbolism and stuff like that. I feel like the raven symbolism ties in with crow symbolism. So crows are one of the only animals that can actually learn to use a tool just like a human, and it can actually learn to use a tool. Like if you give it a totally new tool, it can bend the tool and do something totally new with it. Let's check. This is how we'll wrap up the stream tonight. So I got these two symbolism books. Let's see if ravens are in here. This is a book I really recommend called Signs and Symbols in Christian Art by George Ferguson. Let's see if Raven's in here. Yeah, it is. Wow, there's a few things in here for Raven. So I'll check the entry, and then that's how we'll wrap it up. It says page 24. It's probably going to be really short. Don't get too excited. Raven. Raven. Wow, it's not short at all. Cool. Let's check it out. This is how we'll wrap it up. According to a Jewish legend, the raven was originally white, but its feathers turned black when it failed to return to the ark, from which Noah had sent it to find out if the flood had abated. Because of the blackness of its plumage, its supposed habit of devouring the eyes and brains of the dead, and its liking for spoiled flesh, the raven was selected as a symbol of the devil, who throws the soul into darkness, invades the intelligence, and is gratified by corruption. The raven appears in a more favorable light in relation to certain saints. It's the attribute of St. Vincent because God sent a raven to guard his sacred remains. The raven is also the attribute of St. Anthony Abbot and St. Paul the Hermit because it brought them a loaf of bread each day when they lived together in the desert. The raven, as symbolizing solitude, is associated with these hermit saints. That's perfect. What a perfect note to end on. Because we're all being hermits right now. Anyway, guys, yeah, thanks for watching. I really love that people watch this and get something out of it. Hit me up. Let me know how it's going. Otherwise, guys, I will catch you on the internet where we all hang out together. Thank you for checking this out, guys, and I'll see you later.